The smell of lilies mixed with smoke as I watched 15 years of my career burn in the funeral home's parking lot. My sister Victoria stood there, her black designer dress pristine despite the act of arson she'd just committed, mascara tears streaming down her face, not for our mother, but for her own jealousy. "You don't deserve that VP position," she hissed, tossing another folder onto the pyre she'd made of my professional portfolio. "Mom always said I was the smart one. I should have gotten that promotion." I stood perfectly still, hands folded, watching years of campaigns, awards, and client testimonials turn to ash on the asphalt. Behind us, mourners were still filtering out of our mother's service, some stopping to stare at the spectacle Victoria was creating. "Victoria," I said calmly, "Mom's been gone for 3 hours. Could we maybe wait a day before you destroy my life's work?" She laughed, ugly and bitter. "Life's work? You mean the job you stole from me? I'm the one who introduced you to marketing. I'm the one who got you that first internship." That was Victoria's version of history. The truth was she'd tried to sabotage my internship interview 15 years ago, telling me the wrong time so I'd miss it. I'd only gotten the job because I'd called to confirm and discovered her lie. "Are you done?" I asked, pulling out my phone to check the time. "The reception starts in 20 minutes. Give me your recommendation letter," she demanded, holding out her hand. "The one from the CEO. I know you have it with you. You carry that stupid portfolio everywhere." I reached into my bag and pulled out the sealed envelope, my recommendation for the vice president of marketing position at Morrison Associates, one of the biggest firms in the city, the job we'd both applied for, the job I'd gotten. Victoria snatched it from my hand and fed it to the flames with a triumphant smile. "There, now we're even. You can call them Monday and explain that you lost their precious letter. Maybe they'll reconsider their choice." Our cousin Beth approached cautiously. "What's happening here? Is everything okay?" "Just a little family business," Victoria said sweetly, her funeral persona snapping back into place. "Emma was helping me burn some of Mom's old papers. Therapeutic, you know?" Beth looked at the burning portfolios, clearly recognizing professional documents, then at me. I gave her a small smile and shrugged. She backed away, confused but not wanting to get involved in our drama. Monday morning, Victoria continued once Beth was gone. "I'm calling Morrison myself, telling them exactly what kind of person they hired, how you manipulated your way up, stole credit for my ideas, probably slept your way to that promotion." "None of that is true," I said mildly. "Truth doesn't matter," she smirked. "Doubt does, and once I'm done, they'll have plenty of doubts about their new VP. I looked at my sister, 2 years older, infinitely more bitter, and felt something I hadn't expected, pity. She'd spent so much time trying to tear me down that she'd never built herself up. While she schemed and sabotaged, I'd worked. While she spread rumors, I'd earned results. "Okay," I said simply, "do what you need to do." Her face faltered. She'd expected me to fight, to cry, to beg. That's what the old Emma would have done. But the old Emma hadn't spent 6 months preparing for exactly this moment. "That's it?" she sputtered. "You're just going to let me?" "We should get to the reception," I interrupted. "Aunt Linda will be worried if we're late." I walked away, leaving her standing next to the smoldering remains of my portfolio. Behind me, I heard her shriek of frustration, but I didn't turn back. I had a room full of family to comfort, stories about Mom to share, and a plan to execute. The reception was held at Mom's favorite restaurant, the one where she'd celebrated every milestone. I moved through the crowd, accepting condolences, sharing memories, being the daughter everyone expected. Victoria arrived 30 minutes later, her dress now marked with ash, her carefully constructed image cracking. "Beautiful service," our mother's best friend, Dorothy, said to me. "Your eulogy was perfect. You captured her spirit exactly." "Unlike some people who didn't even speak," Victoria muttered, inserting herself into our conversation. Dorothy's eyes cooled. "Well, not everyone can find the words during grief," she said pointedly, then turned back to me. "Your mother was so proud of your promotion, dear. She called me last week, couldn't stop talking about her daughter the VP." Victoria's face darkened. She was confused at the end. "The medications." She was perfectly lucid. Dorothy cut her off, sharp as ever. "She even said," she paused, looking at Victoria with something like pity. "She said she hoped Victoria would finally find her own path instead of following Emma's shadow." My sister walked away without another word. Dorothy patted my arm. "I shouldn't have said that, but your mother worried about her jealousy. She made me promise to look out for you." That evening, after everyone had gone home and the flowers had been distributed, I sat in my apartment and opened my laptop. Everything Victoria had burned existed in digital form, backed up in triplicate, but that wasn't what I was looking for. I opened a folder labeled Family Videos and clicked on a file dated 6 months ago. My mother's face filled the screen, thin from illness but eyes still bright. "Emma, honey, if you're watching this, it means I'm gone and Victoria has done something dramatic. I know my daughters." I smiled through fresh tears, hearing her voice again. "I need to tell you something I should have said years ago," Mom continued. "Victoria isn't jealous of your success, she's terrified of her own failure. Every achievement of yours highlights what she hasn't done, and instead of working harder, she works to tear you down." The video continued for 20 minutes. Mom detailed instances I'd forgotten: Victoria stealing my college application essays, sabotaging my relationships, spreading rumors at every job I'd ever had, things I'd dismissed or never connected. "But here's what she doesn't know," Mom said, leaning closer to the camera. "I've been documenting everything, every lie, every scheme, every act of sabotage. It's all in a safety deposit box at First National. Keys in my jewelry box, in the hidden compartment. Use it if you need to protect yourself." The video ended with Mom saying she loved me, that she was proud of me, that I should live my life free from Victoria's shadow. I sat in the dark for a long time after, processing. Monday morning arrived gray and drizzling. I dressed carefully in my best suit, the one Victoria had tried to accidentally spill wine on at last year's Christmas party. I arrived at Morrison Associates an hour early, just as I'd planned. Emma, the receptionist, Keisha, greeted me warmly. "Congrats again on the promotion, though," she lowered her voice. "HR called an emergency meeting. Your sister's been calling all morning, making some serious accusations." "I know," I said calmly. "Is conference room A set up?" "Yeah, but the meeting's not until." "I need to prepare something. Can you send them in when they arrive?" She nodded, confused but trusting. I'd built relationships here during my final interviews, something Victoria never understood the value of. In the conference room, I set up my laptop and pulled out a small box, the contents of Mom's safety deposit box, retrieved on Saturday. Then I sat and waited. They filed in at exactly 9 a.m. David Morrison, CEO, Patricia Hernandez, head of HR, Janet Wu, legal, and Thomas Garrett, my future direct report. Their faces were serious, concerned. "Emma," David began, "we've received some troubling communications from your sister, accusations of resume fraud, ethical violations, even," he paused uncomfortably, "suggestions of inappropriate relationships to secure advancement." "I know," I said. "Victoria promised she'd do this. She announced it at our mother's funeral on Friday, right after she burned my portfolio in the parking lot." They exchanged glances. Patricia pulled out her phone. She sent videos. "Emma, what appears to be security footage of you." "May I?" I interrupted politely. "I'd like to show you something first. It might save time." David nodded slowly. I connected my laptop to the screen and pulled up a file labeled Victoria Chen, Pattern of Defamation. "For the past 10 years, I began," clicking to the first slide. "My sister has systematically attempted to sabotage my career. What you're about to see is comprehensive documentation of her efforts, including falsified evidence, forged emails, and yes, doctored security footage." The first video played, security footage from my previous company showing Victoria breaking into my office after hours, accessing my computer. The timestamp showed it was the night before I was accused of sending inappropriate emails to clients. Emails I'd proven were sent from my terminal while I was demonstrably at a conference 3 states away. "This is from Stryker Marketing. 5 years ago," I explained. "She nearly got me fired until IT proved the emails were sent using a spoofing program downloaded that night." The room was silent. I clicked to the next slide. "This is a cease and desist order from Brennan Industries. 3 years ago, after Victoria impersonated me in emails to their board suggesting I was planning to steal trade secrets. Here's the forensic analysis proving the emails originated from her IP address." For 30 minutes, I laid out a decade of harassment, sabotage, and defamation, police reports, legal documents, sworn affidavits from former colleagues who'd witnessed her behavior. The stack of evidence Mom had compiled was thorough and damning. "And this," I said, pulling up the final video, "is from Friday afternoon." The funeral home's security footage showed Victoria stealing my portfolio from my car, setting it on fire in the parking lot while I stood and watched. The audio was clear, every threat, every admission of her plans to destroy my reputation at Morrison. "Why didn't you stop her?" Janet asked, her legal mind clearly spinning. "Because I knew she would escalate," I replied. "Victoria has always counted on me backing down. staying quiet to preserve family harmony. I needed her to finally cross a line that couldn't be ignored or explained away. The videos she sent us, Patricia said slowly, the ones that show you, are deepfakes. I finished. Good ones, but deepfakes nonetheless. I've already had a digital forensics expert analyze them. His report is in your inbox, along with a tutorial showing exactly how Victoria created them using publicly available software and photos from my social media. Thomas, who'd been quiet throughout, finally spoke. You knew this was coming. You prepared for it. My mother warned me, I said simply. She spent her final months documenting Victoria's behavior because she knew it would escalate after she was gone. She was right. David leaned back in his chair, studying me. What do you want to do about this, Emma? I closed my laptop and met his eyes. I want to work. I want to build brilliant campaigns, mentor junior staff, and help this company grow. What I don't want is to spend my energy constantly defending myself against a sister who sees my success as her failure. We could pursue legal action, Janet offered, defamation, harassment, cybercrimes. I've already filed for a restraining order, I said, pulling out the paperwork, and my attorney sent her a comprehensive cease and desist this morning. If she continues, we'll prosecute, but I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. Patricia's phone buzzed. She looked at it and her eyebrows rose. She's here, in the lobby, demanding to be let up for this meeting. We all turned to look at the conference room's glass walls. Sure enough, we could see the elevator doors opening. Victoria stepped out, dressed in her best power suit, carrying a box of what I assumed was more evidence. Should I call security? Patricia asked. No, I said, standing. Let me handle this. I met her at the reception desk where she was arguing with Keisha. Emma, she spotted me, her face lighting up with malicious glee. Perfect timing. I have so much to share with your new employers. They've seen everything. I cut her off calmly. Your deepfakes, your doctored emails, all of it. They've also seen the security footage of you burning my portfolio while admitting you planned to destroy my career. Her face went white. You filmed me? The funeral home's security cameras filmed you. I just requested the footage. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. It's over, Victoria. You've lost. This isn't fair, she shrieked, causing heads to turn throughout the office. You always get everything, the grades, the jobs, Mom's approval. I earned those things, I said firmly. While you spent your energy trying to tear me down, I spent mine building up. That's the difference between us. I'll ruin you, she snarled. I'll go to every company in the city. No, you won't. I pulled out my phone, showing her an email. This is from Janet Wu, Morrison's head counsel. One more defamatory statement and you'll be facing criminal charges. One more fake video and you'll be prosecuted for cybercrimes. One more attempt to contact my employer and the restraining order goes into effect. Victoria's hands shook as she read. Behind me, I sensed David and the others watching from the conference room. You planned this, she whispered. No, I corrected. Mom planned this. She saw what you were becoming and she protected me the only way she could, with the truth. Every lie you told, every scheme you hatched, she documented. She loved you, Victoria, but she wouldn't let you destroy me. She chose you, Victoria said, tears finally falling. Even dead, she chose you. She chose both of us, I said gently. She left you the house, her investments, her jewelry collection, things that could give you a fresh start if you'd stop obsessing over what I have. For a moment, I saw something crack in Victoria's armor, the scared, insecure girl who'd always felt second best. Then it was gone, replaced by familiar hatred. This isn't over, she said, but the threat was hollow now. Yes, it is. I turned to go, then looked back one last time. Get help, Victoria. Use Mom's money for therapy instead of schemes. Find your own path instead of trying to destroy mine. I walked back to the conference room where my new colleagues waited. Through the glass, we watched Victoria leave, her box of fake evidence clutched uselessly to her chest. Well, David said after a moment, that was certainly an interesting first day. I'm sorry for the drama, I began, but he held up a hand. Don't apologize. You handled a difficult situation with grace and preparation. Those are exactly the qualities we need in a VP, he smiled, though maybe we should upgrade your office security, just in case. The meeting dispersed with handshakes and words of support. Patricia lingered, studying me with new respect. That must have been painful, she said, watching your sister burn your work. I thought about it. About the moment I'd watched 15 years of achievements turn to ash. You know what? It wasn't, because I realized something standing there, those papers were just symbols. The real work, the campaigns I created, the relationships I built, the skills I developed, those can't be burned. That afternoon, I settled into my new office, corner view, executive furniture, everything I'd worked toward. On my desk, I placed a single photo, Mom and me at my college graduation, both of us beaming with pride and possibility. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, assuming it was Victoria on a new phone, but something made me open it. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen from Riverside Therapy Center. Your mother was my patient. She left instructions to contact you after her passing. She prepaid for family counseling sessions, hoping you and your sister might someday heal your relationship. The door is open whenever you're both ready." I saved the number, though I doubted Victoria would ever be ready, but Mom had hoped, even at the end, maybe someday. For now, I had work to do, real work, not defending against sabotage or documenting harassment, just the pure joy of creating something brilliant. I opened my laptop and began sketching out my first campaign as VP. Outside my window, the rain had stopped, and sunlight broke through the clouds. It felt like a sign: storms pass, fires burn out, but what's real endures. Victoria had been right about one thing: I did have everything. I'd earned every bit of it.
If I'd known what I know now, the key would never have left my hand. My name is Anne, and I'm the kind of person who saves every receipt, works overtime without asking for extra pay, and remembers everyone's birthday even when they forget mine. At 29, I've spent the last decade building my career in environmental consulting while watching my parents struggle through my dad's early layoff and my mom's constant worry about money. "Anne, honey, you work too hard," Mom always said during our weekly phone calls. "You need to live a little." But someone had to be responsible. Someone had to think about the future. That's why I spent 3 years saving every penny I could scrape together. No vacations, no new clothes unless something literally fell apart. I ate ramen for dinner more nights than I care to admit, all while watching my younger sister Vanessa post Instagram stories from trendy restaurants and weekend getaways. "It's for my brand," she'd say whenever anyone questioned her spending. "I'm building something." What she was building, apparently, was a lifestyle funded by our parents' credit cards and my guilt. The cabin idea came to me during one of those sleepless nights when I was crunching numbers, trying to figure out how to help my parents retire with dignity. Dad had been laid off from the manufacturing plant 2 years early, and Mom's part-time job at the boutique barely covered groceries. They'd been talking about selling the house, moving to some cramped apartment. I couldn't let that happen, so I found the perfect spot, a lakeside property about 2 hours north, with mature trees and a view that made your chest tight in the best way. I worked with contractors for months, designing something cozy but elegant: hardwood floors, a stone fireplace, windows that framed the water like living paintings. The day I brought them to see it, I made them close their eyes during the drive up the winding road. "Anne, what are you up to?" Dad asked, his voice nervous but amused. "Trust me," I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. When they opened their eyes and saw the cabin, their cabin, Mom burst into tears. "Oh my God," she whispered, pressing her hands to her mouth. "Anne, what did you do?" "I bought you a retirement home," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's yours, free and clear." Dad just stood there, staring at the wraparound porch and the path leading down to the private dock. His eyes were wet when he finally looked at me. "Sweetheart, this must have cost—" "Don't worry about that," I cut him off. "I wanted to do this. You've given me everything my whole life. Now, it's my turn." Mom threw her arms around me, sobbing into my shoulder. "You're the best daughter in the world. The absolute best!" For a moment, standing there in the golden afternoon light with my parents crying happy tears, I felt like maybe all those years of sacrifice had been worth it. Maybe this was what family was supposed to feel like. Vanessa showed up an hour later, having driven up separately because she had a thing that morning. She walked through the cabin with her phone in her hand, half listening to our excited chatter about the kitchen island and the master bedroom's lake view. "It's nice," she said, not looking up from her screen. "Very rustic." "Rustic?" Mom laughed. "Vanessa, look at this place. Really look at it." But Vanessa was already posting a story, probably about how her Saturday had been totally hijacked by family drama, or something equally charming. I should have paid attention to that dismissal. Should have noticed how she kept checking her follower count instead of admiring the hand-picked light fixtures. Should have seen the way she rolled her eyes when Dad started talking about morning coffee on the porch. Instead, I was too busy basking in my parents' gratitude, too caught up in the fantasy that I'd finally done something that mattered to them, something that proved I was worth their attention. "We'll spend every weekend here," Mom promised, squeezing my hand. "Every holiday. This will be our family's heart." I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. That night, I drove home with the windows down, feeling lighter than I had in years. The cabin was theirs now, the deed transferred, the mortgage paid in full, my life savings gone in one magnificent gesture. But I'd given my parents their dream. What could be more important than that? 3 months later, I couldn't reach my parents to save my life. "Hi, you've reached John and Madeline. We're probably out enjoying our beautiful new home. Leave a message." The voicemail greeting had changed. Before, it was just, "Hi, you've reached the Edwards residence." Now they were bragging about their beautiful new home to strangers. I tried calling 5 times over 2 weeks. Each call went straight to voicemail. "Maybe they're just busy settling in," my business partner Raphael said when I mentioned it during our monthly land trust meeting. "You gave them paradise. They're probably living it up." Raphael and I had co-founded the Clearwater Environmental Trust 2 years ago, buying up sensitive lakeland to protect it from overdevelopment. The cabin sat on trust land, something I'd arranged specifically to ensure it stayed pristine forever. "I just want to know they're okay," I said, shuffling through violation reports from other properties. It's not like them to go radio silent. That night, I decided to drive up and surprise them. Maybe we could have dinner together, catch up properly. I'd been working so much lately that I'd barely had time to enjoy seeing them happy. The 2-hour drive felt longer than usual. I kept imagining Mom's face when I showed up unannounced, how she'd fuss over me and insist on making my favorite soup. But when I pulled into the driveway, there were 3 cars I didn't recognize: a BMW, a Tesla, and some kind of luxury SUV with California plates. I sat in my beat-up Honda, staring at the vehicles. Maybe my parents had made friends with the neighbors. Rich neighbors, apparently. The front door opened and a woman in designer workout clothes stepped out, laughing loudly into her phone. "Oh my God, this place is incredible," she was saying. "The pictures don't do it justice. We're definitely booking again next month." My blood turned to ice. I pulled out my phone and searched Lakeside Cabin Rental with the address. There it was, my cabin, my parents' cabin, listed on 3 different vacation rental sites. Luxury lakeside retreat, perfect for influencer content creation and corporate getaways, 400 night, 2,500 week. The photos made me sick. Strangers lounging on the furniture I'd picked out. Someone's kids jumping off the dock I'd had specially built. A group of 20-somethings posing with champagne glasses in front of the fireplace, where I'd imagined my parents reading books on quiet evenings. The reviews were even worse. Amazing property for our brand photo shoot. The owners were so accommodating and even let us move furniture around for better lighting. 5 stars. Perfect bachelorette weekend spot. We trashed the place, but the cleaning fee covered everything. We'll definitely be back. I scrolled through dozens of photos, each one feeling like a punch to the gut. Then I saw it. A tagged photo from 2 weeks ago. Vanessa, posing in a bikini on the dock, champagne glass raised to the camera. The caption read, "Living my best life at the family lake house." Blessed Shachastroch influencer life, Sachos lake house nun Sachlast. Sponsored. The location tag said, currently in Santorini, Greece. She'd been posting content from the cabin while vacationing in Europe, using my gift as a backdrop for her fake lifestyle. My hands were shaking as I called Raphael. "Anne, what's wrong?" "They're renting it out," I said, my voice barely steady. "My parents are running the cabin as a vacation rental." Silence on the other end. "Raphael, are you there?" "I'm here." "Anne, you know what this means, right? The trust agreement specifically prohibits any commercial use. The fines alone." "I know what it means." "We're talking about potentially hundreds of thousands in violations. Every single rental is a separate offense." I stared at the cabin, watching more strangers carry suitcases up the porch steps. My porch steps. "Anne, I have to ask, do you want me to look the other way on this? I mean, it's your family." The woman in workout clothes was now taking selfies against the railing I'd spent weeks choosing. In the background, I could see someone else setting up what looked like professional photography equipment. "No," I said quietly. "Document everything." "Are you sure? Once we start the formal process." "Document everything," I repeated, louder this time. I hung up and drove home in a daze. That night, I created accounts on all the rental sites and started screenshotting every review, every photo, every piece of evidence. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with an automated email. "Thank you for your recent stay at Luxury Lakeside Retreat. Please consider leaving a 5-star review of your experience." They'd added me to their mailing list. My own parents were spamming me with marketing emails for the cabin I'd bought them. I laughed out loud in my empty apartment. It was either that or scream. I called them the next morning. "Anne!" Mom's voice was bright, fake cheerful. "Honey, how are you?" "I'm fine. I tried calling you guys for weeks. Why haven't you been answering?" "Oh, we've been so busy. You know how it is, settling into the new place." "Mom, I need to talk to you and Dad. Can I come up this weekend?" A pause. "This weekend?" "Oh, that's not good timing. We have company coming." "What kind of company?" "Just some friends. You know how it is." I gripped the phone tighter. "Actually, I don't know how it is. That's why I want to visit." "Well, maybe next weekend. I'll call you." She hung up before I could respond. 2 hours later, I was in my car driving north. I'd taken the day off work, something I never did. But I needed answers. This time, I parked down the road and walked up. The same luxury cars were there, plus 2 more. Through the windows, I could see people lounging around with laptops and ring lights set up. I knocked on the front door. Dad answered, his face going white when he saw me. "Anne, what are you doing here?" "I live 2 hours away, Dad. I wanted to see how you're enjoying the cabin." He glanced nervously over his shoulder. "Now's not really a good time, sweetheart." "Why not? John? Who is it?" Mom appeared behind him, and her expression shifted when she saw me. Not happy surprise, annoyance. "Hi, Mom." "Anne, you should have called first." "I did call. Multiple times. You never answered." A young woman with perfectly curled hair and a ring light set up behind her poked her head around the corner. "Excuse me, are we still good to film in the kitchen? The lighting is perfect right now." Mom smiled at her. "Of course, sweetie. Just give us 1 minute." The woman disappeared, and Mom turned back to me with a tight smile. "We're helping some friends with a project. It's not a good time for a visit." "What kind of project?" "Just some photography stuff. You wouldn't understand." "Try me." Dad cleared his throat. "Anne, maybe we could meet for dinner sometime this week. In town." "I want to see the cabin, Dad. I want to see how you're enjoying the gift I gave you." Mom's smile finally cracked. "Gift? Anne, honey, this is ours now. You gave it to us, remember? We can do whatever we want with it." "Like, rent it out to strangers?" The silence stretched between us. Dad looked like he wanted to disappear into the floorboards. "How did you—" Mom started. "It's listed on 3 different websites, Mom, with professional photos and everything." "We needed some extra income," Dad said quietly. "The property taxes are higher than we expected, and the maintenance—" "I paid the taxes for the first 5 years," I interrupted. "It's in the paperwork I gave you." Mom stepped forward, her voice getting sharper. "Anne, we appreciate what you did, we really do, but we're adults. We can make our own decisions about our property." "Your property?" "Yes, our property. You signed it over to us, remember? Fair and square." The woman with the ring light appeared again. "Sorry to interrupt, but we're losing the good light. Can we wrap this up?" "Of course." Mom's voice switched back to sugary sweet. "Anne was just leaving." "Actually, I wasn't." "Anne?" Mom's tone turned warning. "Don't make this difficult." "Difficult? I gave you my life savings. I gave you a retirement home, and you turned it into a business." "We're being smart," Mom said. "We're making it work for us. You should be proud that we're being resourceful." "Where's Vanessa?" "What does that have to do with anything?" "Is she here?" "She's in Europe," Dad said. "Some work thing." "Work thing? Dad, she's an Instagram influencer. Her work is taking selfies." "Don't be jealous, Anne," Mom snapped. "Just because you chose a boring career doesn't mean you get to judge your sister." "Jealous? I'm not jealous. I'm confused about how she can afford Europe when she's never had a real job." Mom and Dad exchanged a look. "We help her sometimes," Dad admitted. "She's building something important, with the money you're making from renting out my cabin." "It's not your cabin anymore," Mom said firmly. "And frankly, Anne, I don't appreciate your tone. We raised you better than this." The woman with the ring light sighed loudly. "Look, I hate to be that person, but we booked this space for the whole day. If there's family drama happening, maybe we could reschedule." "No need to reschedule," Mom said, not taking her eyes off me. "Anne was just leaving." I looked at my father, hoping for some sign of the man who'd cried when I gave them the keys. "Dad?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Maybe it's better if you go, sweetheart. We can talk later." I walked back to my car in a daze, passing 2 more influencers setting up tripods on the dock. My dock. As I drove away, I could see them in my rearview mirror, already back to their photo shoot, my parents hovering nearby like eager servants. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Heard you stopped by the lake house uninvited. Not cool, Anne. Some of us are trying to work." She was in Greece. How did she already know? 2 weeks later, Mom called to invite me to Sunday dinner. "It's been too long since we've all been together," she said, her voice artificially warm. "Vanessa's back from her trip, and she has so much to tell us." I almost said no. But I needed to see them face to face, needed to understand how they could justify what they were doing. "Sure, Mom. What time?" 6 o'clock. "And Anne, let's keep things pleasant, okay? No more drama about the cabin." I arrived at their house, their real house, the one they'd been threatening to sell, with a bottle of wine and my phone recording app ready. Vanessa was already there, sprawled across the living room couch with shopping bags scattered around her feet. Designer bags. Lots of them. "Anne!" She jumped up and hugged me, all fake enthusiasm. "Look what I brought back from Greece." She started pulling items out of bags, a Hermes scarf, Louboutin shoes, a handbag that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Wow," I said. "Business must be good. It's incredible. My follower count has exploded. I'm getting brand deals left and right." She held up the handbag. "This was a gift from a luxury travel company. They want me to feature their hotels." "That's amazing. How do you afford the travel to these places?" Vanessa's smile flickered for just a second. "Oh, sponsorships, collaborations." Mom appeared from the kitchen. "Dinner's ready. Come on, girls." At the table, Dad carved the roast while Mom fussed over Vanessa's stories from Santorini. "Tell Anne about the yacht party," Mom prompted. "Oh my God, it was insane. There were like 50 influencers there, all creating content. I got some amazing shots." Vanessa pulled out her phone. "Look at this engagement. 30,000 likes in 6 hours. She showed me a photo of herself on a yacht deck, champagne glass raised, sunset in the background. The caption read, "Grateful for this life and the family that makes it possible. Blessed Shabam living my best life, Ja sponsored." "The family that makes it possible," I repeated. "Well, yeah, you guys are so supportive of my career." I looked at Mom and Dad. "How exactly are you supporting her career?" "We help where we can," Dad said, not meeting my eyes. "With money?" "Anne," Mom warned, "I'm just curious how a 24-year-old with no traditional income can afford European vacations and designer handbags." Vanessa laughed. "God, you sound like such an accountant. Not everything is about money, Anne." "Actually, most things are about money, especially travel and shopping." "I have sponsors." "Sponsors pay for specific posts, not entire lifestyles." The table went quiet. Dad kept cutting his meat into smaller and smaller pieces. "If you must know," Mom said finally, "we've been helping Vanessa invest in her future. The cabin rental income has been a blessing." "A blessing?" "Yes, we're finally able to support both our daughters' dreams." "Both daughters?" "Well, you're established in your career. Vanessa is still building hers." I set down my fork. "Mom, I gave you that cabin so you could retire comfortably, not so you could fund Vanessa's Instagram addiction." "It's not an addiction," Vanessa snapped. "It's a business, a real business that's actually growing, unlike your boring environmental whatever." "My boring environmental work is what paid for the cabin you're using as a photo studio." "Girls, please," Dad said weakly. "No, Dad, I want to understand this. I spent 3 years saving every penny. I ate ramen for dinner and wore the same clothes until they fell apart. I gave up vacations, dates, any kind of social life. All so I could give you guys security." "And we're grateful," Mom started. Are you? Because it seems like you took my gift and turned it into Vanessa's personal ATM. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Here we go. Poor Anne, always the martyr. Excuse me. You act like you're so noble, giving up everything for family. But really, you just don't have a life. You're boring, Anne. You've always been boring. The words hit like a slap. Mom didn't correct her. Dad just stared at his plate. At least I'm not a parasite, I said quietly. Parasite. Vanessa's voice went shrill. I work harder than you think. Do you know how exhausting it is to maintain a social media presence? The pressure to constantly create content. The pressure to take selfies. How exhausting. You're just jealous because I'm actually living while you're stuck in your sad little apartment. Working all the time for what? So you can buy more gifts for people who don't appreciate them? Vanessa, that's enough, Dad said, but his voice had no strength behind it. No, it's not enough. Anne thinks she's better than everyone because she has some boring job and saves money. But look at her, 29 years old, no boyfriend, no friends, no life. She's invisible. The word hung in the air like poison. Invisible, I repeated. Yeah, invisible. You always have been. I looked around the table. Mom was studying her wine glass. Dad was still cutting his meat. Neither of them defended me. I stood up. Thanks for dinner. Anne, don't leave like this, Mom said, but she didn't sound like she meant it. Why not? I'm invisible, remember? As I walked to my car, I could hear them through the open window, already moving on to other topics. Vanessa was showing them something on her phone, probably more photos from Greece. I sat in my car for a moment, hands shaking. Then I pulled out my phone and called my friend Evan, the lawyer. Evan, it's Anne. I need your help with something. Sure. What's up? I need to destroy my family. Evan met me at a coffee shop the next morning, looking concerned. Anne, when you said you wanted to destroy your family, I hoped you were being dramatic. I slid a folder across the table. I wasn't. He opened it and whistled low. Jesus! How many violations are we looking at? Raphael and I counted at least 47 separate rental incidents over 3 months. Each one carries a minimum fine of $5,000 under the trust agreement. That's over $200,000 in fines. Minimum. Some of the violations are more serious. There was a corporate retreat that brought in 30 people, a wedding reception on the dock, multiple influencer events with professional photography equipment. Evan flipped through the screenshots I'd printed. Your parents signed the trust agreement when they took ownership. Every page, I made sure of that. And they were specifically told about the commercial use restrictions. It's highlighted in yellow on page 3. No commercial use, no rentals, no business activities of any kind. He leaned back in his chair. Anne, this is nuclear. You understand that, right? This won't just hurt them financially, it could destroy them. Good. Are you sure you want to do this? I pulled out my phone and showed him Vanessa's latest Instagram story. She was at a spa, getting some kind of gold facial treatment. The caption read, Self-Care Sunday. Thanks to my amazing family for making this possible. Aja grateful, do blessed, jolpo, family first. She posted this yesterday, I said, while I was getting called invisible at dinner. Evan studied the screen. How much do you think she's spending? I've been tracking her posts. Conservatively, $20,000 a month, and that's just what she shows online. Where's that money coming from? The cabin. My cabin. Evan closed the folder. Okay, let's do this. But I need you to understand something. Once we file these violations, there's no going back. Your relationship with your family will be over. It's already over. Anne, Evan, they called me invisible. My own sister said I was boring and pathetic, and my parents just sat there. They took the biggest gift I've ever given anyone and turned it into a way to fund her lifestyle while cutting me out completely. I get it. I do. But nothing. They made their choice. That afternoon, I drove back to the cabin, not to confront anyone this time, but to document everything. I parked across the lake with a telephoto lens and spent 4 hours photographing license plates, counting guests, recording noise violations. A group of 20-somethings was having some kind of pool party on the dock. They'd brought a DJ set up and were blasting music across the water. The trust agreement specifically prohibited amplified music. My phone rang. Raphael, Anne, I just got off the phone with the trusts board. They want to move forward with formal proceedings. Good. They're talking about criminal charges too. Commercial use of protected land without permits. Your parents could face jail time. I watched a drunk girl fall off the dock while her friends laughed and filmed it for social media. What do I need to do? Nothing. We have enough evidence. The board meets Thursday to finalize the violation notices. How long before my family finds out? The notices go out Friday. Certified mail. After I hung up, I sat in my car watching strangers trash the place I'd dreamed of my parents enjoying in peace. Someone had dragged the handcrafted dining table I'd specially ordered onto the deck and was using it as a bar. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hey, this is Natalie, Vanessa's friend. We met briefly at the lake house. Can you call me? It's important. I almost deleted it, but something made me call back. Anne? Thank God. Listen, I need to tell you something about Vanessa. What about her? She's been lying to everyone, about her income, about her sponsorships, all of it. What do you mean? I do her books, unofficial-like, but I help her track expenses and stuff. And she's making maybe $2,000 a month from actual sponsors. Everything else is coming from somewhere else. The cabin rentals. Yeah, but it's worse than that. She's signed contracts with 3 different brands for exclusive content. They're paying her up front for a year's worth of posts, but only if she can guarantee access to that lakeside location. My stomach dropped. How much? $60,000 each. She's locked into contracts worth $180,000, all dependent on using the cabin. Yeah, and Anne, if she can't deliver the content, she has to pay it all back, with penalties. When are the contracts up? Next month. She's planning some huge influencer event at the lake house. Like 50 people, professional photographers, the whole thing. She's calling it her brand summit. I closed my eyes. When? This weekend. Natalie, why are you telling me this? Because she's been bragging about how she's got her whole family wrapped around her finger, how her boring sister will never figure out what's really going on. She thinks you're stupid, Anne. I see. There's more. She's been telling people that the cabin belongs to her, that she bought it with her influencer money. She's completely erased you from the story. I hung up and immediately called Raphael. Raphael, I need the trust compliance officers at the cabin this Saturday. What's happening Saturday? Vanessa's throwing a party, a big one. Commercial photography, 50 guests, probably catering and amplified music. Anne, I know exactly what it is. It's the violation that's going to end this once and for all. The fines for an event that size could be catastrophic. I'm counting on it. I drove home with the windows down, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not happiness exactly, but a cold, sharp satisfaction. They wanted to call me invisible? Fine. They were about to find out just how visible I could be. Friday morning, I sent one text to the family group chat. Just a heads up, vacation rentals on protected land can carry serious legal consequences. Might want to look into that. Vanessa responded within minutes. OMG. Anne, stop being such a buzzkill. We're fine. Mom chimed in. Anne, please don't start drama right now. We have a big weekend planned. Dad didn't respond at all. I screenshot the conversation and added it to Evan's file. Saturday morning, I parked on the hill overlooking the cabin at 8 a.m. Raphael was already there with 2 compliance officers from the trust, plus a photographer to document everything. You sure about this? Raphael asked one more time. I've never been more sure of anything. The first cars started arriving at 10 a.m., luxury vehicles, just like before, but more of them. By noon, the driveway was packed, and cars were parked along the road. I watched through binoculars as they unloaded professional lighting equipment, catering supplies, and what looked like a full bar setup. Someone was directing the placement of branded banners across the dock. That's definitely commercial activity, one of the compliance officers noted, taking photos. My phone buzzed with Instagram notifications. Vanessa was live streaming the setup. Welcome to my brand summit, she was saying to the camera, walking through the cabin. This is my family's lake house, where I create all my best content. Today, we're bringing together 50 of the top lifestyle influencers for an exclusive retreat. She panned the camera across the living room, where people were setting up ring lights and backdrop stands. This place is so special to me, she continued. I basically designed it myself, and it's become the heart of my brand. Everything you see here reflects my aesthetic and vision. I handed the phone to Raphael. She's claiming she designed it. Jesus, Anne. By 2 p.m., the party was in full swing. The compliance officers had documented noise violations, commercial photography, unauthorized signage, and what appeared to be alcohol service without permits. We've got enough, the lead officer said. Should we move in now? Wait, I said. Let me try something first. I called Vanessa. Anne, what do you want? I'm kind of busy. I can see that. Nice party. How can you see? Wait, are you here? I'm around. Vanessa, you need to shut this down. Now. She laughed. Shut it down. Are you insane? This is the biggest event of my career. It's also illegal. You're violating about 12 different environmental protection laws. Oh my God, you're so dramatic. It's a party, not a toxic waste dump. It's a commercial event on protected land. The fines start at $50,000. Whatever, Anne. You're just jealous that I'm actually successful while you're... whatever it is you do. I'm the co-founder of the environmental trust that owns this land. Silence. What? The Clearwater Environmental Trust. I co-founded it. This land is under our protection, and commercial use is strictly prohibited. You're lying. Check the deed, Vanessa. Check the trust agreement Mom and Dad signed. More silence. Vanessa? You're bluffing. You wouldn't do this to family. Try me. She hung up. 5 minutes later, my phone exploded with calls. First Mom, then Dad, then Vanessa again. I let them all go to voicemail. At 3 p.m., I watched Vanessa frantically talking to someone on the phone while gesturing wildly at the party around her. Several influencers were already packing up their equipment. Okay, I told the compliance officers. Now. We drove down to the cabin in the official trust vehicle. The compliance officers got out first, badges visible, clipboards in hand. "Excuse me," the lead officer called out. "We need to speak with whoever's in charge of this event." The party music stopped. 50 influencers and their cameras turned toward us. Vanessa appeared on the porch, her face pale but defiant. "I'm in charge. What's the problem?" "Mom, this property is under environmental protection. Commercial activities are strictly prohibited." "This isn't commercial. It's just a gathering of friends." The officer gestured to the branded banners, professional lighting, and catering setup. "Ma'am, we have documented evidence of commercial photography, alcohol service, and promotional activities. We need everyone to cease operations immediately." "You can't do this!" Vanessa's voice cracked. "This is my family's property. According to our records, this property is owned by John and Madeline, who signed a binding agreement prohibiting exactly this type of activity." Mom and Dad appeared from inside the cabin, looking terrified. "Officers, there must be some mistake," Dad said. "No mistake, sir. We have photographic evidence of multiple violations over the past 3 months. You'll be receiving formal notice of penalties within 48 hours. "Penalties?" Mom's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, ma'am. Each violation carries a minimum fine of $5,000. We've documented over 60 separate incidents." I watched the math hit them. $300,000. Minimum. Vanessa turned and saw me standing by the trust vehicle. "You," she said, her voice pure venom. "You did this." "I warned you," I said calmly. "You destroyed my career. These people came here because I promised them exclusive content." "Maybe you shouldn't have promised things you couldn't deliver." The influencers were streaming out now, some of them filming the drama for their own content. Vanessa's brand summit was becoming her public humiliation, broadcast live to thousands of followers. "Anne, please," Dad said, walking toward me. "We can work this out. We're family." "We were family," I said, "before you decided I was invisible." Tuesday evening, I sat across from my family in Evan's law office. The mahogany conference table felt like a courtroom, which I suppose it was. Evan had insisted on neutral ground for what he called settlement discussions. I called it watching them squirm. Mom and Dad looked like they'd aged 5 years in 3 days. Vanessa sat slumped in her chair, designer sunglasses, hiding what I assumed were puffy eyes from crying. Evan opened a thick folder and pulled out the official violation notice. "Let's go through this systematically," he said, his voice professionally neutral. "The Clearwater Environmental Trust has documented 63 separate violations over a 4-month period." 63! Dad's voice cracked. "Each rental constitutes a separate commercial use violation. The influencer events count as multiple violations due to the professional photography and promotional activities." Evan turned the page. "Standard fines are $5,000 per violation. However, the weekend event triggered enhanced penalties due to the scale and commercial nature." "What does that mean?" Mom asked. "The brand summit alone carries a fine of $75,000. Added to the standard violations, the total penalty is—" He paused for effect. $387,000. The silence was deafening. "That's impossible," Vanessa whispered. "We don't have that kind of money." "The trust is aware of that," Evan continued, "which is why they're prepared to pursue asset seizure, including the cabin and any other properties used as collateral for the rental business." "What rental business?" Dad said desperately. We were just trying to make ends meet. Evan slid a stack of bank statements across the table. These show deposits totaling over $40,000 in rental income. The IRS has been notified about the unreported business income. Mom started crying. Actual tears, not the manipulative kind she used to use when I was younger. "Anne," she said, looking at me for the first time since we'd sat down. "Please, we're your family." "You were my family," I said, "before you decided to steal from me." "Steal?" Vanessa's head snapped up. "We didn't steal anything. You gave us that cabin." "I gave you a home. You turned it into a business." "It's the same thing." "No, it's not. I saved for 3 years to give you something special. You took that gift and used it to fund your fake lifestyle while calling me invisible." "I never called you—" "You're boring, Anne. You've always been boring. You're invisible." I quoted her exact words. "Sunday dinner, remember?" Vanessa's face flushed red. "Anne, we all say things we don't mean when we're upset," Dad said. "Do we? Because you both just sat there and let her say it. Neither of you defended me. Neither of you told her she was wrong." "We were shocked." "You were embarrassed of me, your boring, invisible daughter who works too much and doesn't have a life." Evan cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should focus on the legal matter at hand." "Yes," Mom said quickly. "What do we need to do? How do we fix this?" "The trust is willing to consider a settlement," Evan said. "Full payment of fines, plus interest and legal fees. Total amount, $412,000. Dad put his head in his hands. "We don't have that kind of money." "Then you'll need to sell assets, the house, cars, whatever it takes." "The house?" Mom's voice went shrill. "That's our home." "The cabin was supposed to be your home too," I said, "but you turned it into a hotel." "Anne, please." Dad looked up at me with desperate eyes. "There has to be another way." "There is." Everyone leaned forward. "The trust will accept a public apology and full restitution for damages. You admit what you did, explain how you violated the environmental protections, and take full responsibility." "That's it?" Vanessa asked suspiciously. "Plus, you pay back every penny of rental income, with interest, and you're banned from the property permanently." "Banned?" Mom said. "But it's ours." "Not anymore. The trust is exercising its right of reclamation due to violation of terms." The room went quiet again. "So we lose the cabin either way," Dad said slowly. "Yes." "And we have to publicly humiliate ourselves." "Yes." "And pay back all the money." "With interest." Vanessa stood up abruptly. "This is insane. You're destroying your own family over what, hurt feelings?" "I'm holding you accountable for your actions." "We're your parents," Mom shouted. "We raised you. We loved you." "You loved the idea of me. The responsible daughter who would take care of everything while you spoiled your favorite." "That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my life? My job? Whether I was happy?" Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. "When's the last time you called me just to talk? Not because you needed something?" Silence. "When's the last time you remembered my birthday without Facebook reminding you?" More silence. "You want to know what's really sad? I would have helped you. If you'd just asked me for money instead of stealing it, I would have said yes. But you didn't even think I was worth the conversation." Dad was crying now, too. "Anne, we're sorry. We're so sorry." "I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. Evan slid the settlement papers across the table. You have 48 hours to decide. Sign this or face the full legal consequences. As they filed out, Vanessa turned back to me one last time. I hope you're happy, she said. You got your revenge. No, I said. I got justice. There's a difference. The door closed behind them, leaving me alone with Evan. Feel better? He asked. I looked out the window at the parking lot, watching my family get into Dad's old truck. They looked broken. Ask me tomorrow. They signed the settlement papers on Thursday morning. I wasn't there for it. Evan handled the paperwork while I sat in my office, pretending to review environmental impact reports. But I felt it the moment it happened, like a weight I'd been carrying finally lifting off my shoulders. My phone started buzzing around noon. The first notification was from Vanessa's Instagram. She'd posted a long, rambling apology video that was already going viral for all the wrong reasons. Hi, everyone, she said, her face blotchy and makeup-free. I need to come clean about something. The lake house I've been featuring in my content. It wasn't actually mine. It belonged to my sister, who bought it for our parents, and we violated some environmental laws by using it for business. The comments were brutal. Her follower count was dropping in real time. I have to take a break from social media to deal with some legal issues. I'm sorry to everyone I let down, especially the brands who trusted me. The video cut off abruptly. Within an hour, it had been turned into memes and reaction videos. Her influencer career was over. Raphael called that afternoon. It's done, he said. The settlement's been processed. The trust is taking possession of the cabin tomorrow. What about the money? They're selling the house. Should cover most of what they owe, plus they're setting up a payment plan for the rest. And the public apology? Check the local news website. I pulled it up on my computer. There it was. Front page. Local family admits to illegal vacation rental scheme on protected land. The article included quotes from all three of them. Dad admitting they'd made serious errors in judgment. Mom apologizing to the Environmental Trust and the community. Vanessa taking responsibility for using the property for commercial purposes without permits. They looked miserable in the accompanying photo. My desk phone rang. Mom. Anne, I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I needed to call. What do you want, Mom? I wanted you to know we're moving. We found a small apartment across town. We'll be out of the house by next week. Okay. And Anne, I wanted to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because we got caught, but because of how we treated you. I didn't respond. You were right. We took your gift and we ruined it. We took you for granted and we hurt you, and I don't know how to fix that. You can't fix it, I know. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. How selfish we were. How much we hurt you. Her voice was shaking. You were the best daughter we could have asked for, and we threw it away for money, for Vanessa's silly dreams. They weren't silly to you when you were funding them. No, they weren't, and that was wrong. Everything we did was wrong. I stared out my office window at the parking lot below. Is that all? Your father wants to talk to you too. And Vanessa, she's not doing well. That's not my problem anymore. I know. I miss my daughter. You had 2 daughters, Mom. You just forgot about one of them. She was crying now. Anne, please. Isn't there some way we can fix this? Some way to be a family again? We were never a family. We were just people who shared DNA and a house. That's not true. It is true. A real family wouldn't have done what you did. A real family would have valued the gift, not exploited it. A real family would have defended me when Vanessa called me invisible. We should have. You're right. We should have. But you didn't, and now it's too late. I hung up. That weekend, I drove up to the cabin one last time. The trust had already changed the locks and posted new signs about environmental protection. The rental furniture was gone, the branded banners removed. It looked peaceful again. I walked down to the dock and sat where I'd imagined my parents would sit, drinking their morning coffee and watching the sunrise. The water was still, reflecting the trees perfectly. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Dad. I know you don't want to hear from us, but I needed to tell you something. I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you stood up for yourself. I'm proud that you didn't let us walk all over you anymore. I'm sorry it took losing you to realize what we had." I deleted the message without responding. The sun was setting behind the trees, painting the water gold and orange. It was beautiful, exactly what I'd pictured when I first saw this place and knew it was perfect for them. But they'd never see it like this. They'd never sit here in the quiet evening light, grateful for the gift they'd been given. They'd never appreciate what they'd had until it was gone. I stood up and walked back to my car. As I drove away, I didn't look back. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. Some trust, once broken, can't be repaired. And sometimes that's exactly how it should be.
The funeral director's voice droned on about celebrating a life well lived, while I watched my sister Nicole check her phone for the third time in 5 minutes. Dad's casket sat 10 feet away, and she was scrolling through emails. My name is Yvette, and I should probably mention that I just buried the only person who ever truly understood me. Yvette, honey, people are asking about the reception. Nicole's manicured hand touched my shoulder, but her eyes were already scanning the crowd behind me. We need to make sure everyone feels welcomed. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The black dress I'd borrowed from her closet hung loose on my frame. Everything felt loose lately, like I was shrinking away from the world. She's been like this all week, Nicole whispered to her husband, Cruz, who stood beside her in his perfectly tailored suit. I'm worried about her. Cruz's dark eyes studied me with the same intensity he used in his business deals. Grief affects everyone differently. Does it? Nicole's voice carried that edge I remembered from childhood, the one that appeared whenever she thought I was getting too much attention. Because some people need to pull themselves together for the family's sake. Our mother Cora drifted past us like a ghost, accepting condolences with vacant smiles. She'd barely spoken since the heart attack took Dad 3 days ago. The doctors said it was sudden. He didn't suffer. That was supposed to be comforting. Mrs. Waters, a young woman with kind eyes, approached. I'm Cecilia from the foundation. I just wanted to say how much your husband meant to all of us. Thank you, dear. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Cecilia turned to me. Yvette, I know this isn't the time, but when you're ready, we should discuss the transition. The board is wondering about continuity. Transition? Nicole stepped forward. What transition? The foundation, Cecilia said carefully. Your father's will. We haven't read the will yet, Cruz interrupted smoothly. Perhaps we should wait until after the service. But I knew. Dad had told me 6 months ago, during one of our quiet Sunday mornings in his study. He'd been organizing papers, moving slower than usual, and I'd asked if he was feeling all right. Just making sure everything's in order, sweetheart, he'd said, not looking up from his desk. You know, I've been thinking about the foundation's future. Nicole would be perfect for it, I'd replied automatically. She has the business experience, the connections. Nicole has ambition. Dad's pen had stopped moving. But ambition without heart is just greed wearing a prettier dress, I'd laughed, thinking he was being dramatic. What's that supposed to mean? He'd looked at me then, really looked at me, with those gray eyes that seemed to see everything. It means I know what I'm doing, Yvette. Trust me on that. Now, standing in the funeral home's sterile reception area, those words felt like a prophecy. We should head to the lawyer's office, Cruz announced to our small group. Get the formalities handled. Today? I asked. Can't it wait? Business doesn't stop for grief, Nicole said, already gathering her purse. Dad would understand that. The law office smelled like leather and old coffee. Chandler, Dad's lawyer for 20 years, looked older than I remembered, his white hair thinner, his hands shakier as he opened the thick folder. The will is straightforward, he began, adjusting his glasses. Cora receives the house and personal assets. Nicole and Yvette will split the remaining investments equally. Nicole relaxed visibly. However, Chandler continued, regarding the Waters Foundation for the Arts. Yes? Cruz leaned forward. The foundation and all its assets, including the endowment, are to be placed under the sole directorship of Yvette Waters. The silence stretched like a held breath. I'm sorry, what? Nicole's voice was sharp. That can't be right. It's quite clear, Chandler said, sliding the document across the table. Yvette is named as the foundation's director, with full authority over all operations and distributions. I stared at the paper, Dad's signature bold at the bottom. My hands trembled as I picked it up. This is ridiculous, Nicole stood abruptly. Yvette doesn't know the first thing about running a foundation. She's an art teacher, for God's sake. The decision was your father's, Chandler said quietly. Nicole's jaw tightened, and she turned to look at me with an expression I'd never seen before, something cold and calculating that made my stomach drop. Cruz placed his hand on her arm, but his eyes never left mine. When he smiled, it didn't reach his eyes. Congratulations, Yvette, he said. What a responsibility. As Chandler closed the folder, Nicole and Cruz exchanged a look that lasted just a second too long. Something passed between them, silent and sharp as a blade. I should have recognized it for what it was, a declaration of war. The foundation's boardroom felt like a courtroom. I'd been staring at the same financial report for 10 minutes, the numbers blurring together as exhaustion weighed down my eyelids. 3 hours of sleep wasn't enough to face my first official board meeting, but the coffee wasn't helping either. Yvette, did you hear the question? Nicole's voice cut through my fog. I looked up to find 6 pairs of eyes watching me. The board members, all Dad's longtime friends and supporters, sat around the mahogany table with expressions ranging from concern to barely concealed impatience. I'm sorry, could you repeat it? The Riverside Gallery proposal, said Margaret, the board treasurer. They're requesting $50,000 for their youth program. Your father had flagged it for review. I flipped through my papers, searching for the proposal. I need more time to evaluate. Time? Nicole leaned forward. Yvette, these decisions can't wait indefinitely. The gallery needs an answer by Friday. Then maybe we should table it until I can properly Table it? Dr. Harrison, one of Dad's oldest friends, frowned. Your father never tabled anything. He made decisions. Heat crept up my neck. I'm not my father. No, Nicole said softly. You're not. The meeting dragged on for another hour. Every suggestion I made was questioned. Every decision second-guessed. By the time the board members filed out, I felt like I'd been put through a shredder. Rough first day? Cruz appeared in the doorway as I gathered my papers. It'll get easier, I said, not believing it myself. He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. This transition, it's been hard on everyone. What do you mean? Well, the board is concerned. Nicole's concerned. He sat down across from me, his voice gentle but his eyes sharp. You seem overwhelmed. I'm grieving my father. Of course you are. We all are. He leaned forward. But the foundation can't grieve, Yvette. It has obligations, deadlines, people depending on it. I know that. Do you? He pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. Because I've been looking at the numbers, and there are some irregularities that need immediate attention. Financial discrepancies that could put the foundation at risk. My stomach dropped. What kind of discrepancies? The kind that require someone with experience to handle. Someone who understands complex financial structures. He set his phone down. I could help you. Review the books, streamline operations, make sure everything's above board. I haven't asked for help. Maybe you should. His smile was warm, but something underneath it made my skin crawl. Pride is a luxury the foundation can't afford. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. I wandered through Dad's house, my house now, touching things he'd touched, sitting in his chair trying to feel close to him. The silence was deafening. At 3 a.m., my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a man in a cheap suit holding an envelope. Yvette Waters? Yes. You've been served. My hands shook as I read the court documents. Nicole and Cruz were petitioning to have me removed as foundation director on grounds of mental instability and incompetence. They'd filed for an emergency hearing, claiming I was suffering from severe depression and anxiety that impairs her judgment and threatens the foundation's mission. The evidence they'd compiled was devastating. Photos of me crying at the funeral, testimony from board members about my erratic behavior and inability to make decisions, a statement from Dr. Morrison, our family physician, about my recent prescription for sleeping pills. They'd been building a case against me from the moment Dad died. My phone buzzed. A text from Cecilia. Can we meet? Something's not right at the office. I called her immediately. What do you mean? Nicole's been going through your father's files. She had me pull all the financial records going back 5 years. And Cruz, she paused. Cruz has been asking questions about the foundation's legal structure. Specific questions about bylaws and board authority. They're trying to remove me. What? I just got served. They're claiming I'm mentally unfit. Silence on the other end. Then, those bastards. Cecilia, no, I'm serious. Your father trusted you with this. He chose you for a reason. Maybe he was wrong. Don't you dare. Her voice was fierce. Don't let them make you doubt yourself. That's exactly what they want. The next morning, I sat in Mom's kitchen. The court papers spread between us like evidence of a crime. She stared at them with hollow eyes, her coffee growing cold. Mom, I need you to know that I'm not. Stop. She held up her hand. Just stop. But they're saying I'm unstable, that I can't handle. Maybe they're right. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? You haven't been yourself since your father died. You barely eat. You don't sleep. You can't make simple decisions. She finally looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Doubt. Maybe this is for the best. You think I should give up the foundation? I think you should get help. Real help. Not this stubborn pride that's going to destroy what your father built. I left her house feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. As I walked to my car, I saw Nicole standing by her Mercedes, phone pressed to her ear. Yes, the evaluation is set for Monday, she was saying. Dr. Patterson understands the situation. She'll be thorough. She spotted me and ended the call quickly. Yvette, honey, I hope you understand this is for your own good. Is it? Tears welled in her eyes. Perfect, calculated tears. You're my sister. I love you, but I can't watch you destroy yourself and Dad's legacy. How considerate of you. The foundation needs strong leadership, stable leadership. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. You're not well, Yvette. Everyone can see it. As she drove away, I realized she was right about one thing. I wasn't well, but not in the way she thought. I was angry. And anger, I was beginning to learn, could be a very clarifying emotion. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. I sat at a table that felt too big, watching Nicole dab her eyes with a tissue while Cruz whispered something in her ear. Their lawyer, a sharp-faced woman in an expensive suit, arranged documents with military precision. "Your Honor," she began, "we're here today because a family is in crisis." Judge Martinez looked tired, like she's seen too many family disputes to count. "Proceed, counselor." Nicole Kelly has watched her younger sister deteriorate since their father's death 3 weeks ago. What began as normal grief has escalated into concerning behavior that threatens not only Yvette's well-being, but a charitable foundation that serves hundreds of artists annually. I glanced at my court-appointed attorney, a young man named David, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. He'd spent exactly 20 minutes reviewing my case before the hearing. "We have documentation," Nicole's lawyer continued, sliding a thick folder toward the judge. "Photographs from the funeral showing Miss Waters in obvious distress. Board meeting minutes detailing her inability to make basic decisions. Medical records indicating recent prescriptions for anxiety and sleep disorders." Judge Martinez flipped through the pages. "Miss Waters, how do you respond to these allegations?" I stood on shaking legs. "Your Honor, I'm grieving my father. That doesn't make me incompetent." "But it does make you vulnerable," Nicole's lawyer interjected. "We have testimony from board members expressing concern about Miss Waters' erratic behavior." Dr. Harrison stepped forward from the gallery. "Your Honor, I've known this family for 15 years. Yvette has always been fragile, sensitive. Her father protected her from the business side of the foundation for good reason." "That's not true," I said, but my voice came out weak. "Last week's board meeting was particularly concerning," Margaret added. "She couldn't focus, couldn't make decisions. She seemed confused about basic financial matters. Because I was learning." The words burst out louder than I intended. I'd been director for exactly 1 week. "Miss Waters," Judge Martinez said gently, "please lower your voice." Nicole stood up, tears streaming down her face. "Your Honor, this is breaking my heart. Yvette is my baby sister. I've tried to help her, but she won't listen to reason." "What kind of help?" the judge asked. "Therapy, medical evaluation, even offering to co-manage the foundation until she's better." Nicole's voice cracked perfectly, but she refuses everything. She's isolated herself, stopped eating, barely sleeps. I'm terrified she's going to hurt herself. "That's not," I started. "She called me at 3 a.m. last Tuesday, sobbing incoherently about Dad," Nicole continued. "When I went to check on her, she was sitting in his study in the dark, talking to his empty chair." The courtroom was silent. I felt every eye on me, judging, pitying. "Miss Waters," Judge Martinez said, "have you sought professional help for your grief?" "I don't need," because from what I'm hearing, you're struggling with basic functioning. The foundation serves the public interest. It can't be managed by someone who isn't present." Cruz stood up. "Your Honor, if I may, I have experience in nonprofit management. I've offered to help Yvette transition into her role, but she's refused all assistance. The foundation is suffering because of this delay." "What do you recommend?" the judge asked Nicole's lawyer. "Temporary suspension of Miss Waters as director, pending psychiatric evaluation. Mrs. Kelly and her husband would serve as interim directors to ensure continuity of operations." "No." The word came out strangled. "You can't do this." Judge Martinez looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. "Miss Waters, I'm ordering a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation. Until that's complete, you are suspended from all duties as foundation director. Mrs. Kelly and Mr. Cruz will serve as interim co-directors." The gavel came down like a gunshot. "Yvette, honey." Nicole rushed over as people filed out. "This is temporary. Once you get the help you need—" I jerked away from her touch. "Don't. I know you're angry, but you planned this." My voice was barely a whisper. "You planned all of this." Nicole's tears stopped like someone had turned off a faucet. For just a moment, her mask slipped, and I saw something cold and satisfied in her eyes. The foundation was always mine, Yvette. Dad just forgot that for a minute. She walked away, leaving me standing alone in the empty courtroom. Outside, Cecilia was waiting by her car. I heard, "I'm so sorry." They had everything ready. Photos, testimony, medical records. I felt numb. How long do you think they've been planning this? Probably since the will reading. She opened her car door. But Yvette, there's something you should know. I've been watching them at the office. They're not just taking over. They're changing everything. Nicole fired 3 staff members yesterday. Said they were redundant. She can't do that. She can now. She's the director. Cecilia paused. But there's something else. I overheard Cruz on the phone with someone about restructuring the foundation's mission. He mentioned something about maximizing social impact and high-profile partnerships. What does that mean? I think it means they're planning to gut everything your father built and turn it into their personal networking tool. I stared at the courthouse steps where Nicole and Cruz were talking to reporters, their faces masks of concern and determination. The foundation needs strong leadership during this difficult time, Nicole was saying. We're committed to honoring my father's legacy while ensuring fiscal responsibility. What about your sister? A reporter asked. Nicole's face crumpled with practiced grief. We're praying she gets the help she needs. Mental health is so important, and we want her to focus on healing. Cruz put his arm around her shoulders. The foundation will continue its mission. That's what matters most. They looked perfect together, the grieving daughter and supportive son-in-law, stepping up in a time of crisis. I wanted to scream. Instead, I got in Cecilia's car and let her drive me home to Dad's empty house, where I sat in his study and tried to figure out how they'd outmaneuvered me so completely. But as I sat there in the growing darkness, something Dad had said kept echoing in my mind. I know what I'm doing, Yvette. Trust me on that. Maybe it was time to find out exactly what he'd meant. The psychiatric evaluation felt like being dissected with words. Dr. Patterson asked about my sleep patterns, my appetite, my relationship with reality. She took notes on everything, how I sat, how I spoke, how long I paused before answering. Tell me about your father's death, she said, pen poised. He had a heart attack. It was sudden. How did that make you feel? How do you think it made me feel? The words came out sharper than I intended. She made another note. I understand you've been having difficulty at work. I was learning there's a difference. Your sister seems very concerned about you. I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to me. I'm sure she does. After an hour of this, Dr. Patterson set down her pen. I'm recommending continued therapy and medication adjustment. You're clearly struggling with complicated grief. But I'm not incompetent. Competency isn't just about intelligence, Yvette. It's about emotional stability, decision-making capacity, ability to handle stress. She handed me a business card. I'll be submitting my report to the court next week. I left her office feeling like I'd been branded with a scarlet letter. At home, I found Mom and Dad's kitchen, packing dishes into boxes. What are you doing? Moving back to my apartment. This house is too big, too empty. She didn't look at me. Nicole thinks it's best. Nicole thinks a lot of things. She's trying to help, Yvette. We all are. Are you? I sat down across from her, because it feels like everyone's already decided I'm crazy. Mom finally met my eyes. You're not crazy, but you're not well either. Maybe giving up the foundation isn't the worst thing. Dad wanted me to have it. Your father made a lot of decisions when he was sick. Maybe this was one of them. She taped up a box with more force than necessary. Nicole has the experience, the connections. She can do things you can't. Like what? Like function in the real world. The words hit like a slap. I left her there with her boxes and drove to the one place I thought might have answers. Chandler's law office was exactly as I remembered. Dark wood, leather chairs, the smell of old paper and older secrets. He looked up when I walked in, his expression unreadable. Yvette, I heard about the hearing. You didn't testify for me? I wasn't asked to. He gestured to a chair. How are you holding up? Everyone keeps asking me that, like I'm made of glass. Aren't you? His eyes were kind but sharp. Your father worried about you, about how you'd handle this. Handle what? The foundation? Handle Nicole. The words hung in the air between us. I leaned forward. What do you mean? Your father knew his daughters. He knew Nicole's ambitions, her methods. He also knew you'd need time to find your strength. I don't understand. Chandler stood and walked to his filing cabinet. Your father was a careful man. He didn't make decisions lightly, especially about the foundation. Then why give it to me instead of Nicole? Because Nicole would have turned it into something else entirely. Something that served her interests rather than the artist it was meant to help. He pulled out a thin folder, but he also knew she wouldn't accept his decision quietly. So he expected this to happen? He prepared for it. Chandler's smile was slight but significant. Your father was many things, but naive wasn't one of them. What are you saying? I'm saying there's more to the foundation structure than Nicole realizes. More than most people realize. He set the folder on his desk but didn't open it. But now isn't the time to discuss it. When is the time? When you're ready to fight back. I stared at him. You think I should fight back? I think you should decide what you want, Yvette. Do you want the foundation because your father gave it to you? Or do you want it because you believe in what it represents? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Cecilia. Emergency. Can you meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street? I found her in a corner booth, looking nervous. She slid a manila envelope across the table. What's this? Memos from Nicole's office. I made copies before they locked me out. They locked you out? New security protocols. Only essential personnel have access now. She opened the envelope. Look at this. The first document was a proposal for the Waters Foundation Gala, a black tie fundraiser scheduled for next month. The guest list read like a who's who of the city's elite. A gala? Keep reading. The next page outlined the foundation's new direction, partnerships with major corporations, focus on high-impact projects, streamlined operations. At the bottom, in Cruz's handwriting, phase out small grants. Focus on marquee partnerships that generate publicity. They're going to gut everything Dad built. It gets worse. Cecilia flipped to the last page. Look at the budget. The numbers made my stomach drop. 70% of the foundation's annual budget was allocated to administrative costs and partnership development. The actual grants to artists had been cut to almost nothing. This is fraud. It's legal fraud. They're not stealing money, just redirecting it to serve their purposes instead of the artists. I stared at the papers, feeling sick. How long do we have? The gala is in 3 weeks. They're planning to announce the foundation's exciting new direction that night. Once they do that publicly, with all those donors and board members present, it'll be nearly impossible to reverse. And I'll still be in psychiatric evaluation. Probably. Cecilia leaned forward. But Yvette, there's something else. I was going through your father's old files, and I found some meetings on his calendar from last year. Multiple meetings with Chandler, always marked confidential. About what? I don't know, but they were all scheduled after Nicole started pushing him to give her more control over the foundation. I thought about Chandler's words, about Dad knowing Nicole's methods, about being prepared. Sometimes the obvious is the most overlooked. I said the words out loud without meaning to. What? I was already standing, gathering the papers. Something Dad said to me once. I need to go back to his house. Why? Because I think he left me more than just the foundation. I think he left me a way to save it. That night, I sat in Dad's study, going through every drawer, every file, every scrap of paper. Most of it was routine, bills, correspondence, foundation business. But in the bottom drawer of his desk, Tucked behind a folder of old tax returns, I found a single sheet of paper with my name on it. It was a note in Dad's handwriting. Sometimes the obvious is the most overlooked. The answer isn't in what they can see, it's in what they can't. Trust Chandler, trust yourself, and remember, sweetheart, the best foundations are built to last, even when they look like they're crumbling. Below that, in smaller writing, Guardian Clause, Section 12.7. I'd never heard of a guardian clause, but I had a feeling Chandler had, and for the first time since the courthouse, I smiled. I met Cecilia at the Foundation's office at dawn, before Nicole and Cruz arrived. She'd made copies of her key card before they changed the security protocols. "We have maybe an hour," she whispered, leading me through the darkened hallways. Dad's office, Nicole's office now, had been completely transformed. The warm artwork and family photos were gone, replaced by corporate awards and glossy partnership certificates. Nicole's MBA diploma hung prominently behind the desk. "The filing cabinets are locked," Cecilia said, "but I found something yesterday." She pulled out a folder marked Legal Confidential from behind a stack of gala planning documents. Inside were photocopies of the Foundation's original bylaws, but with sections heavily redacted in black marker. "Look at this." She pointed to a page near the back. "Section 12.7 is completely blacked out. Why would they redact part of their own bylaws? Because they don't want anyone to know what it says." I photographed every page with my phone. "We need the original documents." "Those would be with Chandler." "Then that's where we're going." We were about to leave when voices echoed from the lobby. Nicole and Cruz arriving early. "Told you the Peterson account needed immediate attention," Cruz was saying. "I handled it," Nicole replied. "Unlike some people, I can multitask." Cecilia grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the back exit. We slipped out just as the elevator dinged. Chandler was waiting for us in his office with a pot of coffee and the original Foundation documents spread across his conference table. "Section 12.7, he said without preamble. "The Guardian Clause. Your father's insurance policy." I read the dense legal language twice before it started to make sense. This says if the Foundation director is removed by anyone other than death or voluntary resignation, all assets transfer to a predetermined emergency grant. Correct. But I was removed by court order for mental incompetence, which counts as involuntary removal under the clause. Chandler's smile was grim. "Your father anticipated this exact scenario." Cecilia leaned over my shoulder. "What's a predetermined emergency grant?" "A single, massive grant to one recipient, chosen in advance and sealed until activation." Chandler pulled out another document. "Your father selected the recipient 18 months ago." "Who?" "An artist named Olive Rivera. Struggling painter, works 3 jobs to pay rent. Exactly the kind of person your father wanted to help." He handed me a thin file. "She has no idea she's been chosen." I stared at the clause, my heart racing. "So if this activates, Nicole and Cruz lose everything?" "Everything. The entire endowment, $12 million, goes to Miss Rivera. The Foundation ceases to exist." "That's nuclear," Cecilia breathed. "Your father called it the nuclear option," Chandler agreed. He hoped it would never be necessary. "But how do we activate it?" "We don't. It activates automatically once certain conditions are met." He pointed to a subsection. "The removed director must file a formal challenge to their removal within 30 days. If that challenge is denied or withdrawn, the clause triggers immediately." "I already filed a challenge. The hearing is next week." "Then we wait. If the court upholds your removal, which seems likely given the psychiatric evaluation, you have the option to withdraw your challenge. The moment you do, everything transfers to Miss Rivera." I sat back, stunned. Dad really thought of everything. He loved you, Yvette, but he also loved what the Foundation represented. He'd rather see it destroyed than corrupted. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Cruz wants to meet with me this afternoon. Says it's about your future. I have to go, I told Chandler, but I need copies of everything. Already prepared. He handed me a sealed envelope. Guard this with your life. I arrived at Mom's apartment to find Cruz already there, sitting at her kitchen table like he belonged. He stood when I walked in, his smile warm and concerned. Yvette, I'm glad you're here. We need to talk. About what? Your future. The family's future. He gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Mom looked uncomfortable, wringing her hands. Cruz has been explaining the situation. What situation? The foundation's precarious position, Cruz said smoothly. The board is getting nervous. Donors are asking questions. We need stability. You have stability. You're in charge now. Temporarily. But your challenge to the court order is creating uncertainty. People don't know who's really running things. I sat down slowly. What are you asking me to do? Withdraw your challenge. Accept the court's decision. Focus on getting better. His voice was gentle, but his eyes were calculating. In return, we'll make sure you're taken care of. A generous settlement from the foundation, ongoing therapy, whatever you need. You want to buy me off? I want to help you move forward. We all do. He reached across the table, but I pulled my hands away. The foundation will thrive under Nicole's leadership. She has plans, big plans, corporate partnerships, major donors, real impact. What kind of impact? The kind that matters. High-profile projects that get attention, generate funding, create lasting change. His enthusiasm seemed genuine. Your father was stuck in the past, giving tiny grants to unknown artists. Nicole sees the bigger picture. Those unknown artists were the point. Were they? Or were they just your father's way of feeling good about himself? Cruz leaned forward. Nicole can turn the foundation into something significant. Something that actually changes lives. Mom spoke up quietly. Maybe he's right, honey. Maybe it's time to let go. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She seemed smaller somehow, diminished by grief and uncertainty. The hearing is in 3 days, Cruz continued. If you withdraw your challenge before then, we can avoid the whole spectacle. No more court appearances, no more public scrutiny, just a quiet transition. And if I don't? His smile faltered slightly. Then we go to court, and you lose anyway. But publicly? Messily? Is that really what you want? I stood up. I need time to think. Of course. But Yvette? He stood too, straightening his tie. Don't take too long. The foundation can't wait forever. After he left, Mom and I sat in silence for a long time. He makes sense, she finally said. Does he? You're not equipped for this, sweetheart. You never were. Your father should have known that. Maybe he did know. Maybe that's exactly why he chose me. That evening, I called Cecilia. The gala is in 2 weeks? Yes. Why? Because I want to be there when their world falls apart. Yvette, what are you thinking? I looked at the Guardian Clause document spread across Dad's desk. I'm thinking it's time to find out what Nicole and Cruz really care about more, the Foundation's mission or their own ambitions. How? By giving them exactly what they want and watching them destroy themselves with it. The plan was simple, elegant, and completely irreversible, just like Dad would have wanted. All I had to do was lose. The second court hearing felt like theater. I sat at the defendant's table wearing a wrinkled dress, my hair unwashed, playing the part of the broken woman everyone expected to see. Miss Waters, Judge Martinez began, have you had time to consider your options? I stood slowly, letting my hands shake just enough. Yes, Your Honor. Nicole leaned forward in the gallery, her face a mask of concerned sisterly love. Cruz sat beside her, perfectly composed. Dr. Patterson's evaluation indicates you're struggling with severe depression and anxiety, the judge continued. The court is prepared to uphold the original ruling unless you can demonstrate significant improvement. My court-appointed attorney cleared his throat. Your Honor, My client has been attending therapy and taking prescribed medication. That's commendable, but the foundation requires immediate, stable leadership. Judge Martinez looked at me with what might have been sympathy. Miss Waters, do you wish to continue challenging this ruling? I let the silence stretch, watching Nicole's face. She was trying so hard to look sad, but I caught the flash of anticipation in her eyes. Your Honor, I paused, letting my voice crack. I think maybe everyone's right. Maybe I'm not ready for this responsibility. Nicole's sharp intake of breath was audible. Are you withdrawing your challenge? The judge asked. I am. The words came out barely above a whisper. I withdraw my challenge to the court's ruling. The gavel came down with finality. The court accepts Miss Waters' withdrawal. The original ruling stands. Mrs. Kelly and Mr. Cruz will continue as permanent co-directors of the Waters Foundation. Nicole rushed over as people filed out. Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. This is the right decision. I let her hug me, feeling her relief in the way she held me too tight. I just want Dad to be proud of me. He would be. He'd want you to focus on getting better. Cruz appeared beside us. This is a new beginning for everyone. The foundation, the family, you. What happens now? I asked, playing my part. Now you heal, Nicole said, and we make sure Dad's legacy lives on. That afternoon, I met Chandler at a small cafe across town. He slid a manila envelope across the table. It's done, he said quietly. The withdrawal was filed an hour ago. The guardian clause activates at midnight tonight. And Olive Rivera? She'll receive notification tomorrow morning. $12 million, no strings attached. He smiled grimly. Your father would be pleased. What about Nicole and Cruz? They'll find out when the bank accounts are frozen. Should be interesting. I opened the envelope. Inside were documents transferring a small trust fund Dad had set up for me. Enough to live comfortably, but nothing compared to what Nicole thought she'd won. There's something else, Chandler said. Your father left specific instructions. If the guardian clause was ever activated, I was to give you this. He handed me a sealed letter with my name in Dad's handwriting. Yvette, it read, if you're reading this, it means Nicole showed her true colors. I'm sorry you had to go through this, but I needed you to see what she really cared about. The foundation was never about the money for you. It was about the mission. For her, it was always about the power. Now she'll have neither, and you'll understand why that was necessary. You're stronger than you know, sweetheart. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Love, Dad. I folded the letter carefully. When will they realize what happened? Probably not until they try to access the accounts for their gala expenses. Could be days, could be weeks. I want to be there when they find out. Yvette, I want to see their faces when they realize what they've lost. The next week, I watched from across the street as Nicole and Cruz arrived at the foundation office. Through the windows, I could see them moving around, probably planning their grand gala. Cecilia texted me updates throughout the day. Nicole's meeting with caterers. Cruz is on the phone with the mayor's office. They're acting like they own the world. At 3 p.m., my phone rang. Nicole sobbing. Yvette, something's wrong. The bank says our accounts are frozen. They won't tell us why. That's terrible, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Can you come down here? We need family support right now. I don't think that's appropriate. You said I needed to focus on healing. This is different. This is an emergency. I hung up and drove to the foundation office. The scene inside was chaos. Nicole was on the phone with the bank, her voice getting shriller by the minute. Cruz paced behind her, his usual composure cracking. What do you mean the foundation no longer exists? Nicole was shouting. That's impossible. Cruz spotted me first. Yvette, thank God. Something's happened to the accounts. What kind of something? They're saying the money's been transferred, all of it, to some artist we've never heard of. His face was pale. Olive Rivera. Do you know that name? I shook my head. Never heard of her. Nicole slammed down the phone. The bank won't give us any information. They keep saying to contact our lawyer. Have you called Chandler? He's not answering. Cruz ran his hands through his hair. This has to be some kind of mistake. Or fraud, Nicole said, her eyes wild. Someone's stolen the foundation's money. Who would do that? I don't know, but we're going to find out. She grabbed her purse. The gala is in 1 week. We have deposits, contracts, commitments. If this money doesn't get restored, what happens? I asked. Cruz and Nicole looked at each other, and I saw real fear pass between them. We're personally liable for everything, Cruz said quietly. The venue, the catering, the entertainment. We signed the contracts as foundation directors. How much? $200,000. Nicole sank into a chair. We don't have that kind of money. The foundation does. Or did. Cruz was starting to pace again. There has to be an explanation. Money doesn't just disappear. My phone buzzed. A text from Chandler. Everything is in place. Now, you only need to wait. I looked at Nicole and Cruz, watching them realize their perfect plan was crumbling around them. They'd been so focused on taking control, they'd never considered what they might lose in the process. I should go, I said. This seems like something you need to handle privately. Wait. Nicole grabbed my arm. You withdrew your challenge. You gave up the foundation willingly. That has to mean something legally. Does it? You're still family. You still care about Dad's legacy. Her grip tightened. Help us figure this out. I gently pulled away. I think you two are perfectly capable of handling this yourselves. After all, you said the foundation needed strong, stable leadership. As I walked toward the door, I heard Cruz on the phone with another lawyer, his voice desperate. Yes, this is an emergency. The entire endowment has vanished. Outside, I sat in my car and watched through the windows as Nicole and Cruz's perfect world began to collapse. The gala was in 7 days. They had no money, no foundation, and no way out. But they didn't know the worst part yet. They didn't know I'd been watching. They didn't know I'd planned this. And they definitely didn't know that their humiliation was going to be very, very public. The grand ballroom of the Meridian Hotel sparkled like a jewelry box. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in white silk, each centerpiece a small fortune in orchids and roses. The city's elite mingled in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, champagne glasses catching the light as they moved. I stood in the back corner, wearing a simple black dress I'd bought at a department store. Nobody noticed me. The crazy sister who'd been deemed unfit. Perfect. Nicole commanded the room's attention in a stunning red gown, her smile radiant as she worked the crowd. She moved from table to table like a politician, shaking hands with donors, posing for photos with board members. Cruz stood beside the stage in his perfectly fitted tuxedo, checking his watch and speaking quietly into his phone. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced, please take your seats. We're about to begin this evening's program. I found an empty chair at a table near the back, between an elderly couple who seemed more interested in the wine than the speeches. The woman smiled at me politely. Are you with the foundation, dear? In a way, I said. Nicole took the stage to thunderous applause. The spotlight made her glow like an angel. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began, her voice carrying perfectly through the sound system. We're here to celebrate not just my father's incredible legacy, but the exciting future of the Waters Foundation. More applause. I spotted Mom at the head table, looking fragile but proud. When my father passed away, he left us with more than just a foundation. He left us with a mission: to support artists, to nurture creativity, to change lives through the power of art. Nicole's voice grew stronger. But he also left us with the wisdom to know that missions must evolve. She clicked a remote, and a presentation screen descended behind her. The first slide showed the foundation's new logo, sleek, corporate, nothing like Dad's original design. Tonight, I'm thrilled to announce our new partnerships with some of the city's most influential organizations. The slides changed, showing logos of major corporations. These partnerships will allow us to expand our reach, increase our impact, and ensure the foundation's sustainability for generations to come. The crowd murmured appreciatively. I checked my phone. 11:47 p.m. We're moving beyond small, scattered grants to focus on transformative projects that will put our city on the cultural map, Nicole continued. Projects that will generate headlines, attract tourism, and create lasting economic impact. Cruz joined her on stage, his smile confident and bright. The old model of charity is dead, he said, taking the microphone. Today's philanthropy requires vision, strategy, and the courage to think big. The Waters Foundation is ready to lead that charge. 11:52 p.m. But enough about the future, Nicole said, reclaiming the microphone. Tonight is about celebration, about honoring my father's memory while embracing the possibilities ahead. She raised her champagne glass. To the Waters Foundation, stronger, smarter, and more impactful than ever before. The room erupted in applause and cheers. Glasses clinked throughout the ballroom. 11:58 p.m. Now, before we continue with dinner, I'd like to... The ballroom doors burst open. Chandler strode in, followed by two men in dark suits and a woman with a briefcase. Behind them came a small group I recognized as Foundation board members, their faces grim. The applause died instantly. Nicole, Cruz, Chandler called out, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. We need to speak with you immediately. Nicole's smile faltered. Chandler, we're in the middle of... The Waters Foundation has been dissolved, he announced, his words echoing through the ballroom. As of midnight tonight, all assets have been transferred under the Guardian Clause. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cruz stepped forward, his face pale. That's impossible. We're the legal directors. You were the interim directors, one of the suited men corrected, stepping up to the stage. I'm Agent Morrison with the State Attorney General's office. We're here to inform you that the Foundation's accounts have been frozen pending investigation into financial irregularities. The presentation screen flickered, then changed. Instead of corporate logos, it now showed a single document, the Guardian Clause, blown up for everyone to read. Ladies and gentlemen, Chandler addressed the crowd, I need to inform you that the Waters Foundation for the Arts ceased to exist at midnight tonight. All funds, approximately $12 million, have been transferred to a single emergency grant recipient, as specified in the Foundation's original bylaws. Nicole gripped the podium, her knuckles white. This is a mistake, a legal error. The recipient is Ms. Olive Rivera, Chandler continued, a struggling artist from the East Side who has no knowledge of this windfall. She will be notified tomorrow morning. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Donors stood up, demanding explanations. Board members huddled together, whispering frantically. Photographers snapped pictures of Nicole and Cruz's shocked faces. The gala contracts, the expenses, Cruz started, are your personal responsibility, Agent Morrison said. You signed them as individuals, not as Foundation representatives. A reporter pushed forward. Mrs. Kelly, how do you respond to allegations that you manipulated your sister's mental health evaluation to gain control of the Foundation? Nicole's composure finally cracked. That's not. We were trying to help. Is it true you plan to gut the Foundation's original mission? Another reporter called out. Cruz grabbed Nicole's arm, trying to pull her away from the microphones, but she shook him off. This is sabotage, she screamed, her voice breaking. Someone set us up. That's when she saw me. Our eyes met across the chaotic ballroom, and I watched understanding dawn on her face. The shock, the betrayal, the rage, it all played out in slow motion. You, she whispered, but the microphone caught it, amplifying her voice through the speakers. You did this. The crowd turned to look at me. I stood up slowly, feeling every eye in the room. I didn't do anything, I said, my voice calm and clear. I just withdrew my legal challenge, like everyone said I should. You knew. Nicole pushed past the officials, stumbling down from the stage in her heels. You knew what would happen. I knew Dad loved artists more than he loved power, I replied. Apparently that's something you never understood. Security moved to intercept Nicole as she lunged toward me, but Cruz caught her first, his face a mask of devastation. $12 million, he said, the words barely audible. Gone. All of it. Mom appeared beside me, her face streaked with tears. Yvette, what have you done? I looked around the ballroom, at the shocked donors, the gleeful reporters, the ruined gala that had cost Nicole and Cruz everything they had. I kept Dad's promise, I said. I made sure the foundation's money went to someone who actually needed it. As security escorted Nicole and Cruz out through a side door, I heard her screaming my name, her voice raw with fury and despair. The Waters Foundation was dead, but somewhere across town, a struggling artist named Olive was about to wake up to a phone call that would change her life forever. Dad would have loved that part. The morning after the gala, I sat in Dad's kitchen reading the newspaper headlines. Foundation Scandal Rocks Charity World. Sister's Revenge Destroys Family Legacy. $12 million betrayal. My phone had been ringing nonstop since dawn. Reporters, lawyers, curious neighbors. I'd turned it off an hour ago. A knock at the door interrupted the silence. Through the peephole, I saw Mom standing on the porch, her face puffy from crying. We need to talk, she said, when I opened the door. I led her to the kitchen, poured coffee, waited. Nicole's in the hospital, she said finally. My stomach dropped. What happened? Panic attack. Cruz found her on their bathroom floor at 3 a.m, hyperventilating. Mom's hands shook as she lifted her cup. The doctors say she'll be fine physically. And Cruz? Gone! Packed a bag and left while she was unconscious. Their joint accounts are frozen. Their house is in foreclosure, and he couldn't handle it. Mom's voice was flat. 20 years of marriage, and he abandoned her the moment things got difficult. I stared into my coffee. I didn't know that would happen. Didn't you? Mom's eyes were hard. You orchestrated this whole thing. You let us all think you were falling apart while you planned our destruction. I planned Nicole's destruction. There's a difference. Is there? Because I'm sitting here wondering if I ever knew my own daughter. She set down her cup with a sharp clink. The Yvette I raised wouldn't have done something so cruel. The Yvette you raised let people walk all over her. Maybe it was time for her to grow a spine. At what cost? Mom stood up abruptly. Your sister is broken. Your family is destroyed. Your father's foundation is gone forever. Dad's foundation was already gone. Nicole turned it into her personal networking club. So you burned it all down instead of fighting to save it. The accusation hung between us like smoke. I wanted to defend myself, to explain about the guardian clause, about Dad's plan, about how this was justice. But looking at Mom's devastated face, the words felt hollow. I should go, she said. I need to figure out how to help Nicole pick up the pieces. Mom, don't. She held up her hand. Just don't. You got your revenge, Yvette. I hope it was worth it. After she left, I sat alone in the too quiet house, surrounded by Dad's things and my own choices. Another knock interrupted my brooding. This time it was Cecilia, holding a newspaper and looking uncomfortable. How are you holding up? She asked. Everyone keeps asking me that. Because everyone's worried about you. This is big, Yvette. National news big. She sat across from me. The foundation world is in chaos. Donors are questioning every charity they support. Good. Maybe they'll start paying attention to where their money actually goes. Maybe. Or maybe they'll stop giving altogether. Cecilia leaned forward. There's something else. I got a call from a reporter this morning. Someone leaked the psychiatric evaluation records. My blood went cold. What? The details of your sessions with Dr. Patterson, your medication, your grief symptoms, everything. She handed me her phone. It's all over social media. I scrolled through the posts, feeling sick. Screenshots of my medical records, speculation about my mental state, cruel memes about crazy sister revenge. The comments were brutal. Who would do this? Someone who wants to discredit you, make it look like you're actually unstable, that this was all the product of a breakdown rather than calculated revenge. I thought about Cruz's sudden departure, his business connections, his ruthless pragmatism. He's trying to salvage his reputation by destroying mine. Probably, but Yvette, there's more. Cecilia's voice was gentle. I also got a call from Olive Rivera. The artist? What did she say? She wants to meet you. She knows what happened, knows where the money came from. She's grateful, but also confused. She doesn't understand why your father chose her. Neither do I, honestly. Maybe that's something you should find out. The coffee shop where I met Olive was small and cluttered, the kind of place that served art students and struggling creatives. She was younger than I'd expected, with paint-stained fingers and tired eyes that lit up when she smiled. You're Yvette, she said, standing to shake my hand. I've been following the news. This is all so surreal. I'm sorry you got dragged into our family drama. Are you kidding? You changed my life. She sat down, her excitement barely contained. Do you know what $12 million means to someone like me? I was 3 months behind on rent, living on ramen and hope. What will you do with it? First, pay off my student loans. Then maybe rent a real studio, buy decent supplies. Her smile faded slightly. But I keep thinking about your father. Why me? I never met him, never applied for anything from his foundation. I don't know, but he was good at seeing potential in people. The lawyer said there was a letter, something your father wrote when he set up the grant. She pulled an envelope from her bag. He said you should read it too. I opened it with trembling hands. Dad's handwriting filled the page. To whoever receives this grant, it read, you are reading this because my family has forgotten what the foundation was meant to do. You probably don't know me, but I know you. I know you're struggling, creating art because you have to, not because it's profitable. I know you're the kind of person who will use this money not just to survive, but to help others survive too. The foundation is gone, but its mission lives on in you. Don't let anyone tell you that art doesn't matter. It's the only thing that really does. Make something beautiful with this gift. Olive wiped her eyes. He sounds like he was a good man. He was. I'm going to start a collective. Use part of the money to create a space where artists can work and show their pieces without worrying about rent or sales. She looked at me intently. I want to call it the Waters Collective. Would that be okay? For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than anger or emptiness. He would have loved that. Would you help me? I don't know anything about running an organization, but you do. I thought about Mom's words, about the cost of my revenge, about the family I'd destroyed and the foundation that was gone forever. I don't know if I'm the right person. You're exactly the right person. You're the one who made sure the money went where it was supposed to go. Olive leaned forward. Your father trusted you with his legacy. Maybe it's time to trust yourself with it too. Walking home, I passed the foundation's old building. The Waters Foundation sign had already been removed, leaving pale rectangles on the brick where the letters used to be. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Nicole. I know what you did. I know why you did it. I hate you for it, but I also understand it. Dad always said you were stronger than you looked. I guess he was right. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, I'm sorry about Cruz. Her response came quickly. I'm not. Turns out he was only interested in me when I had something to offer. At least now I know. What will you do now? Figure out who I am without the foundation, without him, without Dad's shadow. Probably should have done that years ago. I walked the rest of the way home in the gathering dusk, thinking about Dad's letter, about Olive's collective, about second chances and new beginnings. The house felt different when I unlocked the door, not empty, but expectant, like it was waiting to see what I'd do next. I found myself in Dad's study, looking at the family photos on his desk. There was one of Nicole and me as kids, building a sandcastle at the beach. We looked happy then, united in our shared project. Maybe we could build something new. Maybe not together, but parallel to each other, like artists working in the same medium but creating different pieces. My phone rang. Cecilia. So, she said when I answered, what now? I looked out the window at the city lights, thinking about struggling artists and second chances, about foundations that could rise from ashes and legacies that could evolve. Now, I said, we get to work.
I spent 6 years of my life, and every penny I'd saved, turning my parents' crumbling disaster of a house into something beautiful. 6 years of weekends spent scraping wallpaper, refinishing hardwood floors, and learning plumbing from YouTube videos. 6 years of believing their promise that this house would be mine someday. My name is Samantha, and I'm about to tell you how that promise became the biggest lie of my life. Sam, honey, could you grab the good china from the dining room? Mum called from the kitchen, her voice carrying that particular tone she used when she wanted something. Maya and Brendan are coming for dinner, and you know how important first impressions are. I paused in the middle of touching up the crown molding I'd installed last month. The paintbrush felt heavy in my hand as I looked around the living room. My living room, or so I'd thought. Every corner held evidence of my work. The restored Victorian fireplace I'd spent 3 months researching and rebuilding. The built-in bookshelves I'd designed and constructed myself. The hardwood floors I'd sanded and stained on my hands and knees. "Coming, Mom," I called back, setting down my brush. In the dining room, I carefully lifted the antique china from the cabinet I'd refinished 2 years ago. Each piece was delicate, expensive, the kind of thing Mom only brought out for special occasions. Or for Maya. "Oh, good, you found it," Mom said as I entered the kitchen. She was wearing her best dress, the navy blue one she'd bought for Maya's engagement party. Her graying hair was perfectly styled, and she'd even put on lipstick. Maya's been so excited to show Brendan the house. She keeps talking about how charming it is. Charming? Right. It had been a money pit when I'd started working on it. Peeling paint, a leaking roof, electrical wiring that probably violated several safety codes. But Maya thought it was charming now. "Where do you want me to set the table?" I asked. "Oh, don't worry about that. I'll handle it." Mom took the plates from my hands, her fingers briefly touching mine. "You should probably change, though. You've got paint in your hair." I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. She was right. White paint streaked through my brown hair, and my old jeans were splattered with primer. I looked like what I was, the hired help. "I'll go clean up," I said. "That's my good girl." Mom smiled, but she was already turning away, arranging the china with practiced precision. Upstairs in my childhood bedroom, the only room in the house I hadn't renovated yet, I washed the paint from my hair and changed into clean clothes. Through my window, I could see Maya's car pulling into the driveway. Her BMW gleamed in the late afternoon sun, a sharp contrast to my beat-up Honda parked on the street. I watched her step out, all flowing blonde hair and designer clothes. Brendan emerged from the passenger side, tall and nervous-looking in his pressed khakis. He was carrying flowers. "They're here!" Mum's voice echoed through the house, followed by the sound of the front door opening. "Maya, sweetheart, and Brendan, how wonderful to see you again." I made my way downstairs slowly, listening to the chorus of greetings and compliments. "Mrs. Morrison, the house looks incredible," Brendan was saying as I reached the bottom of the stairs. Maya told me about all the renovations, but seeing it in person, wow. "Oh, we've put so much love into this place," Dad's voice boomed from the living room. "It's been a real labor of love, hasn't it, Abby?" "Absolutely," Mom agreed. We're so proud of how it's turned out. I stood in the doorway, watching my parents bask in praise for work they'd never done. Maya was curled up on the couch I'd reupholstered, her engagement ring catching the light from the chandelier I'd rewired. "Sam!" Maya spotted me and waved. "Come see how the living room photographs. Brendan's been taking pictures for his Instagram." I walked over, forcing a smile. "It does look good." "Doesn't it?" Maya beamed. "I keep telling Brendan this house has such character. So much history." "Speaking of history," Dad said, settling into his favorite armchair, "we actually have some exciting news to share with everyone tonight." Mom's eyes lit up. "Oh yes, we've been waiting for the perfect moment." "What kind of news?" Maya asked, leaning forward. Dad and Mom exchanged one of their meaningful looks, the kind that usually meant they'd made some decision without consulting anyone else. "Well," Dad said, his voice taking on that jovial tone he used when he was particularly pleased with himself, "let's just say we've been doing some thinking about the future. About this beautiful house and what it could mean for our family." My stomach dropped. Something in his tone, in the way Mom was practically vibrating with excitement, set off every alarm bell I had. "We'll tell you all about it over dinner," Mom said, clapping her hands together. "But I think you're going to be very, very surprised." The next morning, I stood in the kitchen making coffee, watching sunlight stream through the windows I'd personally cleaned and recaulked. The house felt different somehow, like it was holding its breath. Maybe I was projecting, but after Dad's cryptic announcement at dinner, everything seemed off. "Morning, sweetheart," Mom said, appearing in her bathrobe. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I said, pouring her a cup. "So, about last night—" "Oh, let's not spoil the surprise," she interrupted, taking the mug with both hands. "Your father wants to do this properly." I watched her sip her coffee, noting how she avoided my eyes. In the harsh morning light, I could see the stress lines around her mouth, the way her shoulders held tension. "Mom, is everything okay? Financially, I mean." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Why would you ask that?" "Because 3 years ago, when the roof started leaking, you guys couldn't afford to fix it. Remember? I had to take out a personal loan for $15,000. And we're so grateful. I'm not looking for gratitude. I'm asking if you're in trouble again." Mom set down her mug with a sharp clink. "Samantha, you worry too much. We're fine. Better than fine, actually." The front door slammed, and Dad's voice carried through the house. "Abby, where are you? I've got news." He appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in his work clothes from his night shift at the plant. His face was flushed with excitement. "Tom, you're supposed to wait until tonight," Mom scolded. "Wait for what?" I asked. Dad ignored her, pulling out his phone. "I just got off the phone with a realtor. A good one. Guillermo something. Comes highly recommended." My coffee mug slipped from my fingers, shattering on the tile floor I'd installed myself. "A realtor?" My voice came out as a whisper. "Now look what you've done!" Mum snapped at Dad, grabbing paper towels. "We agreed to tell her properly." "Tell me what properly?" I knelt down, picking up ceramic pieces with shaking hands. Dad sat heavily at the kitchen table. "Sam, honey, your mother and I have been talking. This house is worth a lot of money now. A lot more than we ever imagined. Because of the renovations," I said slowly. "Exactly. All that work has really paid off. The realtor thinks we could get close to $400,000. I stopped picking up broken ceramic. $400,000. "Can you believe it?" Mom was practically glowing. "We never dreamed it would be worth so much. You're selling the house." "Well, yes. But Sam, think about what this means for the family." Dad leaned forward. "Maya's wedding is going to cost a fortune. A good wedding, the kind she deserves. And Brendan's a nice boy, but his family doesn't have much money." I stood up slowly, ceramic shards still in my palm. "You're selling my house to pay for Maya's wedding?" It's not your house, sweetheart, Mom said gently, like she was explaining something to a child. It's our house. It's always been our house. I put $60,000 into this place. $60,000. My entire savings account, my emergency fund, money I'd been saving since I was 16. And we appreciate every penny, Dad said. But Sam, that money wasn't a down payment. It was you helping your family, like a good daughter does. The ceramic pieces cut into my palm, but I barely felt it. You promised me this house. You said if I fixed it up, it would be mine someday. We said a lot of things, Mom said, her voice taking on that edge it got when she was getting defensive. But circumstances change. Maya needs our help now. Maya needs help? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to me. Maya, who's never worked a day in her life. Maya, who spent last summer in Europe while I was rewiring the electrical system. That's enough. Dad's voice was sharp. Maya is getting married. This is important. And what I've done here isn't? Of course it is, honey. Mom reached for my arm, but I stepped back. You've been such a help, such a good daughter who just does what needs doing. But Maya only gets married once. Hopefully, I muttered. What did you say? Dad stood up, his face darkening. Nothing. I said nothing. The kitchen fell silent except for the tick of the clock on the wall. The antique clock I'd had restored last Christmas as a gift for them. The realtor is coming by this afternoon to do a walkthrough, Dad said finally. We'd appreciate it if you could make yourself scarce. Maybe visit that friend of yours, Olivia. You want me to leave so you can show off my work to a stranger? Sam? No, I get it. I understand perfectly. I walked to the sink and rinsed the blood from my palm. When's the closing? We're hoping for next month, Mom said quietly. Before Maya's wedding in the spring. I dried my hands on the towel I'd embroidered with little flowers 2 years ago. Everything in this kitchen, everything in this house, had my fingerprints on it. My sweat, my money, my dreams. I need to make a phone call, I said. To Olivia? Mom asked hopefully. To my lawyer. The silence that followed was deafening. Dad's face went white, and Mom's coffee mug trembled in her hands. Your lawyer? Dad's voice was barely above a whisper. You remember him, don't you? The one who helped me file the lien on this property when I paid for the roof repairs? The one who made sure I'd be protected if something like this ever happened? I walked toward the kitchen door, then turned back. Surprise. I sat in Olivia's kitchen 3 hours later, staring at a stack of legal documents spread across her dining table. My hands were still shaking. Breathe, Sam, Olivia said, setting a cup of tea in front of me. Just breathe. I can't believe they actually said that to me. You're such a good daughter who just does what needs doing. I picked up one of the documents, the lien filing from 3 years ago. Like I'm the family maid. What did your lawyer say when you called? That I'm protected. The lien covers all major structural improvements, not just the roof. Every renovation I documented, every receipt I saved, it's all there. Olivia sat across from me, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. She'd been my best friend since college, the only person who'd witnessed my slow transformation from hopeful daughter to unpaid contractor. How much are we talking about? I flipped through the receipts. Roof repairs, $15,000. Kitchen renovation, $12,000. Bathroom overhaul, $8,000. Electrical work, $11,000. Flooring throughout the house, $14,000. That's just the big stuff. Jesus, Sam. That's $63,412. Plus interest. I looked up at her. I have every receipt, every bank statement, every text message where they promised me this house would be mine. And they have no idea? None. They think I'm just going to roll over and let them steal my life savings to fund Maya's fairy tale wedding. Olivia leaned back in her chair. What happens when they try to sell? The lien has to be satisfied before the sale can go through. They can't transfer clear title until they pay me back every penny, plus the legal interest rate. Which means they're about to get the shock of their lives. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Samantha, please come home. We need to talk like adults." I showed Olivia the message. "Are you going to go?" "Not yet. Let them sweat for a while." I stood up and walked to her window, looking out at her small but well-maintained garden. You know what the worst part is? I actually believed them. For 6 years, I believed that if I just worked hard enough, sacrificed enough, they'd finally see me as valuable as Maya. Sam, no, let me finish. Every weekend I spent stripping wallpaper, I told myself it was an investment in my future. Every time I chose to buy materials instead of going out with friends, I thought I was building something permanent, something mine. You were building something, just not what you thought. I turned back to her. What do you mean? You were building leverage. You were building proof. You were building a case. She gestured to the documents on the table. They think they can just take what you've created and give it to Maya. They're about to learn otherwise. My phone rang. Dad's number. "Answer it," Olivia said, "but put it on speaker." I swiped to accept. "Hello, Dad." "Samantha, what's this nonsense about a lawyer? Come home right now. We need to discuss this as a family. I am discussing it with my lawyer and my documentation." "What documentation?" "Every receipt, Dad. Every bank statement. Every text message where you and Mom promised me this house. Every photo I took of the work in progress. Everything." The line went quiet for a long moment. "Sam, honey, you're being dramatic. We never promised you anything in writing. Actually, you did. Text message from Mom, dated 2 years ago. Don't worry about the cost, sweetheart. This will all be yours someday, and you'll be so glad you made it beautiful." "Should I read more?" That's not legally binding." "Maybe not, but the lien is." "What lien?" "The one I filed when I paid for the roof repairs. The one that covers all major improvements to the property. The one that means you can't sell this house without paying me back first." I heard him talking to someone in the background. Mom, probably. "How much?" His voice was strained. $63,412, plus 3 years of interest at the legal rate. "We don't have that kind of money, Sam. You know we don't." "Then you shouldn't have promised to sell my house to pay for Maya's wedding." "It's not your house." "It's not yours either, apparently. Not until you pay me what you owe me." The line went dead. Olivia was grinning. "Holy shit, Sam! You actually did it." "Did what?" "You grew a spine." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Maya. "What the hell is wrong with you? Mom is crying. Dad is furious. Fix this now." I showed the message to Olivia. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the legal documents, then at Maya's text, then back at Olivia. "I'm going to let them list the house. I'm going to let them find buyers. I'm going to let them get all the way to the closing table. And then I'm going to watch their faces when they realize they can't sell what they don't own." 2 weeks later, I sat at the kitchen table with a manila folder in front of me, watching my parents frantically clean the house for the 3rd showing this week. The for sale sign had gone up last Monday, and apparently word was getting around about the charming Victorian with modern updates. "Sam, could you please move your paperwork?" Mom asked, wiping down counters that were already spotless. "The buyers will be here in 20 minutes. "I'm comfortable here, thanks." Dad appeared in the doorway, straightening his tie. "Samantha, we've talked about this. We need you to make yourself scarce during showings." "Actually, we haven't talked about anything. You've been avoiding me for 2 weeks." The doorbell rang, and Mom's face lit up. "That's them! Tom, are you ready?" Through the front window, I could see a young couple standing on the porch with a man in an expensive suit, Guillermo, the realtor. Behind them was a woman with a briefcase who looked like she meant business. "Showtime," I murmured, opening my folder. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison," Guillermo's voice boomed as Dad opened the door. "And these are the Hendersons, the buyers I told you about. This is their attorney, Destiny." "Welcome, welcome." Dad's salesman voice was in full effect. Come in. We're so excited to show you what we've done with the place." The Hendersons were probably in their early 30s, holding hands and looking around with the kind of wide-eyed excitement I remembered having when I first started working on this house. The attorney, Destiny, was scanning everything with sharp, professional eyes. "Oh my goodness," Mrs. Henderson breathed, looking up at the restored crown molding. "The photos don't do it justice." "We've put our hearts and souls into this place," Mom said, beaming. "Every room has been lovingly restored." I cleared my throat. "Excuse me." Everyone turned to look at me. Dad's smile faltered. "I don't believe we've been introduced," I said, standing up. "I'm Samantha Morrison. I'm the one who actually did the restorations." "Oh!" Mrs. Henderson looked confused. Do you live here too?" "I used to. Now I'm just here to make sure everything goes smoothly with the sale." Guillermo stepped forward, his realtor smile never wavering. "Samantha is Tom and Abigail's daughter. She's been very involved in the renovation process." "How wonderful," Destiny said, her voice neutral. "It's always nice to meet the people who've put work into a property." "Speaking of work," I said, picking up my folder, "I have some documentation here that might interest you, about the improvements that have been made." Dad's face went white. "Sam, this isn't the time." "Actually, it's exactly the time." I walked over to Destiny and held out a thick stack of papers. "I'm the lien holder on this property." The room went dead silent. Mrs. Henderson looked at her husband, who looked at Guillermo, who looked at my parents. "I'm sorry," Destiny said, taking the papers. "Did you say lien holder?" "That's correct. I filed a mechanics lien 3 years ago to protect my investment in this property. All major renovations and improvements were funded by me personally." Destiny flipped through the first few pages, her expression growing more serious with each document. "These appear to be properly notarized and filed," she said slowly. "They are. Page 4 has the complete breakdown of costs. Page 7 has the photographic evidence of all work completed. Page 12 has the text message correspondence where the property owners promised me ownership in exchange for the improvements." "What does this mean?" Mr. Henderson asked, looking between his wife and their attorney. "It means," Destiny said, still reading, "that Ms. Morrison has a legal claim against this property that must be satisfied before any sale can be completed." "How much?" Mrs. Henderson's voice was barely a whisper. I looked directly at my parents. $71,843. That includes the principal amount plus interest calculated at the statutory rate. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. "Tom, do something." This is..." Dad was stammering, his face cycling through various shades of red. "Is this lien valid?" Mr. Henderson asked Destiny. She nodded grimly. "From what I can see here, yes. The filing appears to be completely legitimate and properly executed." "So, what happens now?" Guillermo asked, his realtor smile finally cracking. "Now," I said, sitting back down at the kitchen table, "my parents have a choice. They can pay me what they owe me, or they can't sell the house." "We don't have $70,000, Mom burst out. "You know we don't have that kind of money." "Then I guess you shouldn't have spent my money and promised to give away my house." Mrs. Henderson tugged on her husband's sleeve. "Maybe we should look at other properties." Wait, Dad said desperately. There has to be some way to work this out. Sam, honey, surely we can come to some kind of arrangement. The arrangement was that this house would be mine. You broke that arrangement. But Maya's wedding is not my problem. Destiny closed the folder and handed it back to me. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, I'm going to need to see documentation proving this lien has been satisfied before my clients can proceed with any purchase. We understand, I said before my parents could respond. Take all the time you need to review everything. I'll be right here. The Hendersons were already heading toward the door, whispering urgently to each other. Guillermo followed, his phone already pressed to his ear. Destiny paused at the kitchen table. Ms. Morrison, this is very thorough documentation. Thank you, I'm very thorough. She nodded and left. The front door closed, leaving me alone with my parents in the house I'd rebuilt with my own hands. Are you happy now? Mom's voice was shaking. Are you happy that you've ruined everything? I looked around the kitchen, at the cabinets I'd refinished, the backsplash I'd installed, the fixtures I'd chosen and paid for. Actually, I said, I'm just getting started. The next morning, Maya's BMW screeched into the driveway like she was arriving at a crime scene. I watched from the living room window as she stormed up the front walk, her designer heels clicking against the stone path I'd laid 2 summers ago. She didn't bother knocking. Where is she? Maya's voice echoed through the house as she slammed the front door. Maya, sweetheart, calm down. Mom's voice drifted from the kitchen. Calm down? Calm down? Do you know what Brendan's mother just asked me? She asked if our family was having financial difficulties because someone told her cousin that our house sale fell through. I stayed in the living room, listening to Maya's heels click across the hardwood floors I'd refinished. Sam! Maya appeared in the doorway, her face flushed with rage. What the hell do you think you're doing? Good morning to you too, Maya. Don't you dare act casual with me. Mom told me about your little stunt yesterday. A lien? Really? You're going to destroy this family over money? I'm not destroying anything. I'm protecting my investment. Your investment? Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. This isn't an investment, Sam. This is our family home, our parents' house. Built with my money. Oh, please. You act like you're the only one who's ever helped Mom and Dad. I stood up slowly. Really? When did you help them, Maya? Was it when you were in college and I was working 2 jobs to help pay your tuition? Or was it when you were backpacking through Europe last summer while I was rewiring the electrical system? I help in other ways. Name one. Maya's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I bring them joy. I make them proud. By spending their money on a wedding they can't afford. It's not just their money. Brendan's family is contributing too. How much? That's none of your business. How much, Maya? She crossed her arms. $5,000. $5,000? And how much is this wedding costing total? That's not the point. 40,000? 50? More? Maya's silence was answer enough. So Brendan's family is contributing $5,000, and you expect Mom and Dad to come up with the rest by selling the house I renovated with my life savings. They want to help with my wedding. They want to help because you've never learned to pay for anything yourself. Girls, please. Dad appeared in the doorway, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Can we discuss this like adults? There's nothing to discuss, I said. I have a legal lien on this property. It has to be satisfied before any sale can proceed. Sam, honey, surely we can work something out. Dad sat heavily in his favorite chair. What if we gave you a percentage of the sale? Say, 20%? 20% of what I'm already legally entitled to? No thanks. 30%? Dad, you're not listening. I don't want a percentage. I want what you owe me. Every penny I put into this house, plus interest. Maya threw her hands up. This is insane. You're holding our parents hostage. I'm holding them accountable. For what? For loving you enough to let you live here rent-free for years? Rent-free? I stared at her. Maya, I've been paying the utilities, the property taxes, the maintenance costs, and all the renovation expenses for 6 years. What exactly do you think rent-free means? You chose to do all that work. Because they promised me the house. Well, maybe they changed their minds. The room went dead silent. Even Dad looked shocked at what Maya had just said. Maybe they changed their minds, I repeated slowly. Maya realized her mistake immediately. I didn't mean... No, I think you meant exactly that. You think they have the right to take 6 years of my life, $60,000 of my money, and just change their minds. Sam, Dad started. And you know what the really sick part is? You're not even sorry. None of you are sorry. You're just angry that I'm not rolling over and letting you steal from me. Mom appeared in the doorway, her eyes red from crying. Samantha, please. Maya's wedding is in 3 months. We've already sent the invitations. Then you better figure out how to pay for it without selling my house. It's not your house, Maya screamed. I walked over to the mantelpiece and picked up a framed photo. The whole family at Christmas 2 years ago, standing in front of the fireplace I'd restored. You see this room, Maya? I stripped 17 layers of paint off that mantelpiece. I rebuilt the firebox. I restored the original tile surround. I spent 3 months researching the proper Victorian color scheme for the walls. I set the photo down and turned to face her. You see that dining room? I refinished every piece of furniture, restored the chandelier, and hand-painted the ceiling medallion. The kitchen? I designed and installed every cabinet, every tile, every fixture. I gestured around the living room. This entire house is my work, my money, my time, my dreams, and you want to take it away from me so you can have a party. It's not just a party. It's one day, Maya. One day versus 6 years of my life. Maya's face crumpled, and for a moment she looked like the little sister I used to protect from bullies. But it's my wedding day, she whispered, and this is my home. The front door opened, and Olivia walked in carrying a stack of papers. Sorry to interrupt, she said, looking around at all our tear-streaked faces. But Sam, your lawyer called. The buyer's attorney wants to schedule a meeting. Apparently, they're still interested in purchasing, but they want to understand the lien situation better. I took the papers from her. When? Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Maya looked at Mom and Dad, then back at me. You're really going to go through with this? Yes. Even if it destroys our family? I looked around the room, at the crown molding I'd installed, the floors I'd refinished, the windows I'd restored. Maya, you destroyed our family the day you decided my 6 years of work was worth less than your 1 day of celebration. The meeting was set for 10 a.m. at Destiny's law office, but by 9:30, my parents were already in full panic mode. I sat at the kitchen table, calmly reviewing my documentation, while they paced around me like caged animals. Maybe we could take out a second mortgage, Mom said for the 5th time. On what? Dad snapped. The house we're trying to sell? The house that apparently belongs to our daughter? It doesn't belong to me, I said, without looking up from my papers. It belongs to you. You just owe me money for the improvements. $71,000, Dad muttered. Where the hell are we supposed to get $71,000? My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Please don't do this. I'm begging you. I showed it to my parents. She's been crying all night, Mom said. Brendan's family is asking questions. His mother wants to know if we need to postpone the wedding. Maybe you should. Samantha, Mom's voice cracked. This is your sister's happiness we're talking about. What about my happiness? Did anyone consider that when you decided to sell my house? It's not your house. Then pay me what you owe me and prove it. The phone rang. Guillermo. Dad answered on speaker. Hello? Tom, we have a problem. The Hendersons are getting cold feet. Their attorney is advising them to walk away unless this lien situation gets resolved immediately. How? Immediately. Today. They want proof that the lien has been satisfied, or they're pulling their offer. Dad looked at me desperately. Sam, what if we gave you the wedding budget? All of it. $25,000. You don't have $25,000. You were going to get it from selling the house. We could borrow it. From who? Your credit is maxed out, your retirement account is empty, and you don't have any assets except this house. Mum sat down heavily. How do you know about our finances? Because I've been living here for 6 years, Mum. I've seen the bills. I've watched you struggle. I've been the one bailing you out. So help us now. I am helping you. I'm helping you learn that actions have consequences. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Brendan's car in the driveway. Oh no, Mom whispered. Maya must have called him. Dad opened the door, and Brendan walked in looking like he hadn't slept. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and his clothes were wrinkled. Mr. Morrison, Mrs. Morrison. He nodded politely, then looked at me. Sam. Brendan, I need to understand what's happening here. Maya she's not handling this well. Where is she? Mom asked. At her apartment. She won't come out of her bedroom. He sat down across from me. Sam, Maya told me about the lien, about the money you put into the house. Did she tell you about the promises they made? She said your parents said the house would be yours someday? Not someday. In exchange for the renovations. That was the deal. Brendan nodded slowly. And now they want to sell it to pay for our wedding. That's right. He was quiet for a long moment, looking around the kitchen. You did all this work yourself? Most of it. Some I hired contractors for, but I paid for everything. $60,000? 71 with interest. Brendan rubbed his face. Jesus, that's more than I make in a year. Brendan, Dad said carefully, surely you understand that family comes first. Maya is getting married. This is supposed to be the happiest time of her life. And what about Sam's happiness? Brendan asked quietly. The room went silent. What? Mom stared at him. I said, what about Sam's happiness? She spent 6 years making this place beautiful, thinking it would be her home. Now you want to take it away and give the money to us? You're getting married, Dad said. Like that explained everything. So, that doesn't mean we're entitled to Sam's money. It's not her money. Yes, it is. Brendan stood up. I've been thinking about this all night. Maya told me Sam paid for the roof, the kitchen, the bathrooms, everything. That's Sam's money, not yours. Brendan, you don't understand, Mum started. I understand perfectly. You made a promise to Sam, and now you want to break it to give us a fancy wedding we can't afford. Maya deserves a beautiful wedding. Maya deserves a wedding we can pay for ourselves. Brendan looked at me. Sam, I'm sorry. I had no idea they were planning to do this. It's not your fault. Yes, it is. I should have asked more questions when they offered to help with the wedding. I should have wondered where the money was coming from. He turned to my parents. The wedding is off. What? Mum gasped. I'm not getting married with stolen money. It's not stolen, Dad protested. What would you call it? Brendan asked. Taking someone's life savings under false pretenses? We're her parents. We raised her, fed her, clothed her. And she paid you back with interest. Literally. Brendan headed for the door. I need to go talk to Maya. Brendan, wait, Mom called after him. Don't do anything rash. We can work this out. He paused at the door. Mrs. Morrison, the only way to work this out is to pay Sam what you owe her. If you can't do that, then maybe you shouldn't be selling her house. After he left, the kitchen fell silent, except for the ticking of the antique clock. Well, I said finally. At least one person in this family has a conscience. Dad's face was purple with rage. Are you happy now? You've destroyed Maya's engagement. I didn't destroy anything. I just refused to be robbed. You're being selfish and vindictive. I'm being honest. For the first time in my life, I'm being completely honest about what this family really is. And what's that? Mom asked, her voice barely a whisper. I looked around the kitchen one more time, at all the work I'd done, all the love I'd poured into this place. A lie, I said. This whole family is a lie. 3 weeks later, I sat in Destiny's conference room, watching my parents sign document after document. The Hendersons had found another property, but a new buyer had emerged. A young family with cash who didn't mind the lien situation as long as it was handled properly at closing. This is the settlement statement, Destiny said, sliding a paper across the table to my parents. The sale price is $410,000. After real estate commissions, closing costs, and the lien satisfaction, the net proceeds to you will be... She paused, letting them read the number. Dad's face went white. $18,000? That's correct. Mom stared at the paper like it was written in a foreign language. But we expected at least $300,000. Your daughter's lien takes priority, Destiny explained patiently. She's entitled to $71,843, plus all accrued interest through the closing date. That brings her total to $76,215. I kept my expression neutral, but inside I was calculating. $76,000. Enough to put a down payment on my own place. Enough to start over. Where do we sign? I asked. Sam, wait, Dad said desperately. There has to be another way. What if we kept the house and just paid you monthly, like a mortgage? With what income? You're both retired, and your Social Security barely covers your current expenses. We could get jobs. Dad, you're 59 years old with a bad back. Mom hasn't worked in 20 years. Be realistic. Guillermo cleared his throat. The buyers are expecting to close today. If we don't proceed, they'll walk. And then what? Mom asked. We keep the house and owe Sam $76,000 we don't have. The lien doesn't go away just because you don't sell, Destiny confirmed. It stays on the property until it's satisfied. Dad slumped in his chair. So we're trapped. You trapped yourselves when you decided to spend my money and give away my house. It was never your house, Mom snapped, but there was no fire left in her voice. Then why does it hurt so much to lose it? She didn't have an answer for that. The door opened, and Maya walked in. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She'd lost weight. I came to watch, she said, sitting down in the chair farthest from me. Maya, sweetheart, you don't need to be here, Mom said. Yes, I do. I need to see what my sister is willing to do to our family. Your sister isn't doing anything to your family, Destiny said firmly. She's collecting on a legitimate debt. A debt that's destroying us. A debt you created when you decided her money was yours to spend. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Brendan broke up with me. The room went silent. He said he couldn't marry into a family that would steal from each other. He said he couldn't trust me after seeing how I treated you. She looked directly at me for the first time in weeks. Are you happy now? You got your money, and you destroyed my life. I didn't destroy your life, Maya. I just stopped letting you destroy mine. Same thing. No, it's not. You could have had a smaller wedding. You could have waited and saved money. You could have asked Brendan's family to contribute more. You had options. We shouldn't have needed options. Our parents should have been able to help us. With their own money, yes. Not with mine. Dad picked up the pen with shaking hands. Where do I sign? Destiny pointed to the signature lines. One by one, My parents signed away the house I'd spent 6 years rebuilding. When it was done, Destiny handed me a cashier's check. $76,215, she said. I stared at the check. 6 years of my life, reduced to numbers on a piece of paper. The buyers will take possession next Friday, Guillermo said. You'll need to be out by then. Where are we supposed to go? Mom asked. There's a senior apartment complex on Oak Street, I said quietly. 1-bedroom units for $800 a month. With your Social Security and the $18,000 from the sale, you could afford it for about 2 years. You've already looked into it? Dad asked. I've been planning for this day since you announced you were selling my house. Maya stood up abruptly. I can't listen to this anymore. Maya, wait, Mom called. No, I'm done. I'm done with all of you. She looked at me one last time. I hope your money keeps you warm at night, Sam, because you'll never have a family again. She left, slamming the door behind her. The room was quiet, except for the sound of papers being shuffled and filed. Is there anything else? Dad asked. That's everything, Destiny said. The transaction is complete. My parents stood up slowly, like they'd aged a decade in the past hour. Sam, Mom said as they reached the door, I hope you know what you've done. I do know. I finally stood up for myself. You've destroyed this family. No, Mom. I've just stopped pretending we were one. After they left, I sat alone in the conference room, holding the check that represented everything I'd worked for and everything I'd lost. Olivia poked her head in. How do you feel? I looked at the check, then at the empty chairs where my family had been sitting. Rich, I said, and completely alone. I stood in the empty living room of my childhood home, my footsteps echoing off the hardwood floors I'd refinished with my own hands. The new owners would arrive tomorrow to start their life in the house where mine had ended. You sure you got everything? Olivia asked from the doorway, holding the last box from my old bedroom. Yeah, there wasn't much left that was actually mine. The house felt different without furniture, without the family photos that had lined the mantelpiece I'd restored. Smaller somehow, less significant. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. It's Maya, I told Olivia, reading the message. She wants to meet. Are you going to? I looked around the empty room one more time. Yeah, I think I am. We met at the coffee shop where Maya used to work during high school, back when she'd lasted exactly 3 weeks before quitting because the manager didn't appreciate her potential. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a mug like she was trying to warm herself. She looked up when I sat down. You came. You asked me to. I wasn't sure you would. After everything, I studied her face. The dark circles were still there, but something else had changed. The entitled confidence that had always surrounded her like armor was gone. Brendan's engaged, she said quietly. Already? To his co-worker, Sarah. They've been friends for years, apparently. Maya's laugh was bitter. He proposed last week. Simple ring, small ceremony planned. Everything I said I didn't want. Maya, no, let me finish. I've been thinking about what he said, about the money being stolen, about what kind of person I am. She took a shaky breath. He was right, about all of it. I waited. I knew, Sam. Deep down, I knew what Mom and Dad were doing was wrong. I knew you'd put your own money into that house. I knew they'd promised it to you. Then why? Because I wanted my fairy tale wedding more than I wanted to be a decent person. Tears started falling down her cheeks. Because I've spent my whole life believing I deserved everything I wanted just because I wanted it. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. I got a job at the department store downtown, sales associate. It's humbling. Good for you, is it? Good for me? She looked up. Because I feel like shit every single day. I wake up thinking about how I treated you, how I let Mom and Dad treat you, and I feel sick. Maya, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I needed you to know that I finally understand what I did. What we all did. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. This is for you. I opened it. Inside was a check for $3,000. It's not much. It's everything I had in my savings account, plus what I could scrape together from selling some jewelry. I know it doesn't even come close to what you lost, but… Maya, I can't take this. Yes, you can. You have to. It's the only way I can live with myself. I stared at the check. $3,000. A fraction of what I'd lost, but something else entirely. An acknowledgement. An apology written in numbers. There's something else, Maya said. Mom and Dad are struggling, really struggling. The apartment you found them is… it's not great. And Dad's pride won't let him ask for help. What do you want me to do about it? Nothing. I'm not asking you to help them. I'm just telling you because I thought you should know that your revenge worked. They're paying for what they did. And how does that make you feel? Terrible. But also… fair. Is that awful? I folded the check and put it in my pocket. It's honest. I miss you, Maya said suddenly. I miss having a sister. You always had a sister. You just never treated me like one. I know. And I know it's too late to change that. Maybe. Maybe not. She looked up hopefully. I'm not ready to forgive you, Maya. I might never be. But I'm willing to see if you can actually change. What does that mean? It means keep your job. Keep learning what it feels like to work for what you want. Keep thinking about how your actions affect other people. And maybe someday we can have coffee again. Really? Really? But Maya, if you ever try to take advantage of me again, if you ever treat me like I'm less important than you, we're done forever. Do you understand? I understand. I stood up to leave. Sam, Maya called after me. What you did? Getting your money back. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad someone finally stood up to us. I walked out of the coffee shop and found Olivia waiting by her car. How was it? She asked. Surprising. I showed her the check. Holy shit, Maya gave you money? Apparently guilt is expensive. So what now? You've got your settlement money, Maya's guilt money, and a clean slate. What's the plan? I looked back at the coffee shop, where Maya was still sitting alone in the corner booth. I'm going to buy a house, a small one that's actually mine from day one. And your family? My family is whoever treats me like family. Everyone else is just people I used to know. Olivia grinned. I like this version of you. Which version? The one who knows what she's worth. I got in her car and rolled down the window as we drove past my old house. The sold sign was still in the front yard, and I could see boxes stacked on the front porch, the new family's belongings, waiting to fill the rooms I'd restored. Any regrets? Olivia asked. I thought about Maya's tears, my parents' shock, the family dinners that would never happen again. I thought about the check in my pocket, and the house I'd lost, and the sister I might someday have again. Ask me in a year, I said, but as we drove away, I realized I already knew the answer. Revenge had built me a fortress, but for the first time in my life, I was finally free to build myself a home.